And we are live for week 13 Sunday morning. How we doing, everybody? It is going to be a fantastic Sunday. We got a fun day of games ahead of us. A lot of close projected games today. A lot of close projected start-sit decisions today. Guys, we got 2 weeks left in the regular season for fantasy football. We got to get these wins. We got to get into the fantasy football playoffs. All right. We're going to get to thousands of start-sit comments in this live stream today. I got my rankings ready. I'm ready to go, guys. There's a lot of tough decisions today. And I think the toughest decisions today come at the wide receiver position, where Tank Dell, Nico Collins, both of these guys, they're going to project really well. I have them still pretty high in my rankings. I got to be honest, I'm pretty nervous about both of these guys. I definitely would start Jalen Waddle over Tank Dell and Nico Collins. I'd be starting Michael Pittman, Devontae Smith over both those guys. I'd strongly consider Deebo Samuel, Courtland Sutton, Mike Evans, Brandon Ayuk over all of them as well. And the main concern for me here, it's the matchup against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have been on an absolute tear of late defensively. I'm excited for this game. I actually think the Broncos will win this game against the Houston Texans. I believe they're around 3.5. 3.5 point underdogs in this game. The Denver Broncos have played a very good stretch of defenses. This is not such a great Houston Texans defense they get. On the other side of the ball, though, the Broncos defense, we have not seen a good receiver game against the Broncos defense, guys, since week 4. DJ Moore was the last good game we saw against the Denver Broncos secondary. That was back in week 4 where he had 131 yards and a touchdown. We saw Garrett Wilson struggle against the Broncos. We saw Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed all struggle against the Broncos. We saw all the Chiefs receivers struggle against the Broncos. We saw Steph Diggs struggle against the Broncos. He only had 7 points. Jordan Addison struggled against the Broncos. The Browns receivers did nothing against them last week. They haven't played the best receivers, but I expect one of Tank Dell or Nico Collins to bust. Today, I'm pretty nervous for both of them, and I think they're pretty comparable just in general. Sam the man. Let's see the prop of the day. Yeah, we got people already asking for the prop of the day. So we're going to cut to the chase here with the player prop of the day. We did miss just barely on Thursday night. We needed 4 more yards from Tony Pollard, but we're going with Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions today. There's going to be no Dallas Goedert again today. This is one of the highest projected scoring games of the day. Devontae Smith is averaging a 33% target share in the 2 games without Dallas Goedert so far this season. 38% target share against the Chiefs without Dallas Goedert. Last week, 29% target share against the Bills without Dallas Goedert. I expect to see something similar today. I think minimum, we're seeing a 25% target share for Devontae Smith today. That's resulted in 6 catches, 7 catches each of his last 2. He's hit this in 3 of his last 4. He's hit this in 5 of his last 7. This should be at 5.5, not 4.5, this line. So I'm going with Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions as the free player prop of the day. Morning, Sam. Been killing it. Thanks to you and Walter. Thanks, man. My question today, pick 2. Half PPR, Brees, Javonte, Olave. Yeah, so Chris Olave, one of the few players. I got another question here right after this. Ryan is asking about Cooper Kupp or Chris Olave. Let me pull up the wide receiver tiers here again on the TikTok live. We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Guys, if you're tuned into the live this early in the morning, make sure you hit that like button, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button. I do appreciate it so much. Helps me out way more than you guys realize. Let me make sure subscriber only chat is not on. It is on. I will turn that off on the TikTok live. We will get to sub-only chats later, though. I really think you got to start Chris Olave now that he's playing. It's really rare. I think this is one of maybe the second or third time this whole season we've seen a player get in the concussion protocol and get out of it without missing a single game and not having a bye week in between. There's going to be no Michael Thomas. Again, he's still on IR this week. And there's also no Rashid Shaheed. So it's Chris Olave, it's A.T. Perry, it's Lynn Bowden out there as the top receivers for the Saints. We have not seen Chris Olave get under a 20% target share except for once this season, back in week 4. He still had 146 air yards in that one too. And this is a good spot for Olave. The Lions offense is going to be able to score points against the Saints. Lions allowing their 6th worst against receivers. I really think you got to be starting Chris Olave in almost all situations today. Let me pull up the numbers here for the Lions against receivers. But the Lions defense, guys, has not been good. We saw Jaden Reed and Christian Watson both go over 15 points last game. DJ Moore had 22 points the week before that. Keenan Allen dropped a 40 bomb against them back in week 10. And Jalen Guyton, Quentin Johnson both went over 12 points in that game as well. There was like 70 wide receiver points that the Chargers scored against the Lions in that game. The following week, DJ Moore drops 23 points. The following week, Christian Watson drops 20 points. And now we're seeing 3 straight games where the Lions have allowed at least one receiver to go over 20 points. Then you look at the situation for the Saints, and they have no receivers other than Chris Olave playing today. So, yeah, you got to start Chris Olave here, I think. And I'm playing Javonte over Breece also. I'll pull my running back ranks here on the YouTube Live. I'll pull up the running back tiers here on the TikTok Live as well. But, yeah, you got to be starting Javonte Williams over Breece Hall. I do really like the spot today for the Denver Broncos offense. I think that the Texans offense is going to be good enough to score against the Broncos defense, which has been really tough to do of late. But I also think the Broncos offense is pretty underrated going into this game. They've had a tough stretch of defenses. Let me pull up the Russell Wilson game logs here. I actually do like Russell Wilson's touchdown prop line today as well. Almost went with that for the free player prop of the day, but sided with liking the Devontae Smith one a little bit more. But you look at the matchups, guys, that Russell Wilson has played. He played the Browns last week. They're top 3 defense. The Vikings, Bills, those aren't horrible matchups for him. But then you look at the stretch of defenses before his bye. Chiefs, Packers, Chiefs, Jets, all top 12 defenses against quarterbacks. And now you see the stretch he gets down to finish out the season. Pretty much all top 10 matchups other than the Patriots. Starting today against the Texans, who have not been a very good defense so far this year. Same thing goes with how they played against running backs. I do like Javonte a lot. And the good thing about Javonte is he's not game script dependent. He will be involved in the passing game if they fall behind too. We've seen a huge, look at this receiving for Javonte Williams in the last game, 70% route percentage. You do not see that at the running back position. 29% target share for Javonte, 6 targets last time out against the Browns. I like Javonte more than Breece for sure. I don't see the Jets making this a real game either against the Falcons. I was kind of surprised how close that spread was. Tim Boyle, guys, cannot win NFL games. Sam, flex, Rachaad White, or Chris Olave, half PPR. Yeah, this one's close in half. Full PPR, I feel like I want to say Olave here, but Rachaad White has a really good matchup today as well. And in full PPR, it's going to be Rachaad. Half PPR, it's probably still going to be Rachaad White. Yeah, you got to go Rachaad White here. He's in a really good spot here against the Panthers. They've arguably been the worst run defense in the league. They're bottom 3 run defense in the league. What's up, Sam? Currently tailgating, about to watch Miami kill my Commanders. Should I start Tua and make it worse or go with Stroud? Start Tua. You got to start Tua. And yeah, if you're a Commanders fan and you're tailgating for that game, man, you better tailgate pretty hard if you're a Commanders fan today, because this game, I'll pull up my wide receiver ranks to see if Tyreek Hill's up at number 1. And I got Chris Olave, I think, I got Jalen Waddle. Yeah, he's in number 7. So I got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both in the top 7. I'll pull my QB ranks, but Tua is my number 3 QB. And I think there's a really good argument for Tua to be the number 2 overall quarterback today as well. I'll pull up the QB ranks here in the TikTok Live. But Brock Purdy and Tua, they both have great matchups. But, man, this matchup for the Dolphins is a dream come true here for the Dolphins. The Commanders have not been able to stop anyone passing the ball. That is clearly the strength of the Dolphins. And where Tua really thrives is when you can't get pressure on him. And since the Commanders traded their top 2 pass rushers, I mean, this team, I think, is the number 1 secondary you want your team playing against. The Dolphins could easily score 40 points in this game. So, yeah, tailgate hard and definitely start Tua to make it worse for yourself or to make it better, for your fantasy day. Zane, how's it going? Good morning, everybody in the YouTube Live. If you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. I'm actually going to restart the TikTok Live real quick. I'm having some lag on my end there. I will get that going again. I'll get to this question here in just a second. All right. Let me pull up the QB tiers here. I got the QB rankings up now. All right. Bench 1, full PPR, Rice, Collins, Browns, Deontay Johnson, and Chase. Yeah, I think you got to start Nico Collins here. If that's A.J. Brown, I assume it is, or Marquise Brown, either one of those. Yeah, you got to start. It's really between Rice and Deontay Johnson here. And I think I lean towards Deontay Johnson, but I feel like Rashee Rice has a higher ceiling. Yeah, it is Rashee Rice. And I guess this actually is a good time to bring up. It is. I would bench Deontay Johnson here. And this is a good time, I think, for Weatherman Sam to chime in. Because, guys, there is some weather today. It's a weird it's a weird weather report today. There's a lot of weather to be aware of, but I'm not sure very much of it actually matters. There's not going to be any wind, any significant wind. Let's start there. Over 20 miles an hour, except there might be some wind gusts in the 30-mile-an-hour range in the Cardinals and Steelers game. There's also going to be intermittent, heavy scattered rain in the Falcons and Jets game, and pretty heavy rain in the Chargers and Patriots game as well. I'm not too worried that's going to impact the games that much. The Patriots and Chargers game, interestingly, has a really, really low over-under. I do kind of like the Pats defense on DraftKings and FanDuel at min price this week for the weather reasons. But there's going to be rain today. Be ready for rain. You're also going to start seeing some reports about snow in the Chiefs and Packers game. It is going to snow a little bit before that game. It is going to be freezing temperatures in that game, but the snow is going to be done by the time the game starts. We're not going to overreact to that. So we got some light rain in the Panthers and Bucks game. We got some scattered showers in the Falcons and Jets game. We got some some scattered showers in the Cardinals and Steelers game as well. But that Cardinals-Steelers game is actually probably the most concerning weather report that I saw, because there could be wind gusts with those scattered showers up to 30 miles an hour. So I am a little bit concerned about that. Herbert or Goff? Yeah, I would go Herbert over Goff today. Ridley or Connor? I think I would lean towards Ridley over Connor as well. All right, this is the weather report, and I do think this is a good case for Rashee Rice over Deontay Johnson if there's going to be heavy rain and possibly significant wind gusts as well. Can you give a 5-team parlay with the spread? Yeah, so I think I answered this one before the live started, and I generally don't. I'm not doing team parlays. I do like the Patriots to upset the Chargers today. I'm not exactly sure how realistic that feeling is about the Pats upsetting the Chargers, but part of me feels like the Patriots are going to not be able to tank successfully, and why not this week against a bad Chargers defense? Bailey Zappi, too, has not been given a chance this whole season to actually go into a game knowing he is the starter. Like, he's always been thrown in at the end of the game or late in the game where the offense has already struggled the whole time. What if Bailey Zappi does better in a game where he actually got to prepare as the starter, where the whole team knew he was going to be the starter? I think there is a chance there, especially against the Chargers secondary. Why so high on Gibbs this week? I had Singletary in lineup over him. Yeah, you definitely should not start Devin Singletary over Jahmyr Gibbs. And part of the reason Jahmyr Gibbs is so high is the target share has been very consistent for Jahmyr Gibbs. This was the whole reason I was excited about Jahmyr Gibbs going into the season. And we're seeing a lot of green here on this receiving game log for Jahmyr Gibbs. He had 8 targets last week, 6 targets the week before that, 5 targets the week before that. The last time Jahmyr Gibbs had less than 5 targets in a game was week 3. You cannot say that for very many running backs in the NFL. He's been at least 15% target share every single game since week 3. Only 2 games this whole season where he went under a 15% target share. So in PPR leagues, Jahmyr Gibbs, elite ceiling, elite floor. You got to be starting him in almost all spots. I got Jahmyr Gibbs as my number 3 running back this week. I think you could argue Kyren Williams over him. I think you could probably argue the next 3 running backs over him, but I'd start Jahmyr Gibbs over Zach Moss still, even though he's in a great spot today. I'm sure we're going to get to a lot of Zach Moss questions. Isaiah Pacheco also looking like he's in a really good spot again today too. All right, we got a question here from Edwards in the YouTube live. I've seen a similar question here in the TikTok live. I've seen some Pittman questions. I'll talk about Michael Pittman in a second, but Puka Nacua, DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris, or Achane, pick 2 full PPR. Yeah, so Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, 2 guys I'd prefer to bench if I can today. They're playing the Browns. The Browns have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Receivers have really struggled against the Cleveland Browns, guys, and I don't think Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are going to be an exception. I would rather play Puka Nacua than Cooper Kupp, who just does not look fully healthy. I just feel wrong where I'm ranking Cooper Kupp. I feel physical pain where I'm ranking Cooper Kupp this week. I'll pull up my wide receiver tiers here again on the TikTok live, but I got Cooper Kupp in tier 6 with Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy and Rashee Rice and Jaden Reed and Deontay Johnson. Just doesn't feel right. Anyways, you got to start Najee Harris here for sure. And then I think I would probably go with Achane over Puka and Swift. Let's see here. Actually, I have Swift a couple spots ahead of Achane. So yeah, I think it's Swift and Najee. I do really like Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren today. At least one of these 2 guys, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, is going to have a big day. This is a very, very good matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers on the ground. And then when you add in the fact of that weather report we just talked about in that Steelers-Cardinals game, where there's going to be scattered heavy rain showers and potential wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are going to combine for probably close to 40 touches today against a Cardinals defense that has been absolutely obliterated. I mean, obliterated by running backs this season, especially of late. Last week, Royce Freeman and Corinne Williams combined for 50 points against the Arizona Cardinals. The week before that, Devin Singletary had 20 points. The week before that, Bijan Robinson had 20 points. The week before that, Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford combined over 20 points. The week before that, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill combined for almost 40 points. I can keep going. The week before that, Corinne Williams had 22 points. Kenneth Walker had 14 points. We have not seen a bad running back performance against the Arizona Cardinals this season. And the Steelers offense finally showed some life last week too. Their first game over 400 yards in so long. And now they get the Cardinals and they're favorites. And there's going to be rain and wind too. I mean, you got to start Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Morning, Sam. Hope you had an amazing week. You too, Matt. Sutton or Noah Brown, and is McBride going to play today? Yes, so Trey McBride is going to play today. We actually have a pretty clean injury report today. All the guys that were questionable, they're pretty much playing, pretty much all of them. And Chris Olave was the biggest question mark, I think, and he is going to play, it sounds like. I'm pretty scared about Noah Brown. Noah Brown's prop lines, they're set at like 25.5 yards. It sounds like he might not be at 100%, even though Noah Brown is going to play. So I think there's an interesting ceiling there with Noah Brown, but I absolutely would be playing Courtland Sutton over Noah Brown. I do not think this one is close. Courtland Sutton, guys, he's been consistent. I'm pretty bullish on the Broncos offense in general in this game and moving forward for the rest of the season. And yeah, we're projecting Sutton to double up the points of Noah Brown today. And when Noah Brown was going off, it's worth remembering these games where Noah Brown popped off. And Noah Brown absolutely popped off, guys, in his last two games. He didn't play in week 11 or 12, though. And Nico Collins wasn't active in those games. Nico Collins was injured in those games. So it was all Noah Brown. And Robert Woods was injured in those games, too. And now Noah Brown comes back to an offense that has Robert Woods and Nico Collins and Tank Dell. So something's got to give here in this receiver group. I expect Robert Woods to be the one to play less. I think the best three receivers that the Texans have are Noah Brown, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. But that doesn't necessarily mean Noah Brown's going to get all the work that Robert Woods gets when he is active. All right, let's get to and McBride is going to play today. I'll pull up the tight end ranks here. I'll go to the tight end tiers. I really like tight ends just because I think they're really straightforward. I would take Najee over Thielen rest of the season right now. Seeing that one in the TikTok live. Let me pull up the tight end ranks though, because I think that the tight end ranking's pretty straightforward this week. Kelsey's in a tier of his own, and then I think George Kittle is in a tier of his own as well this week. Let me see if I can find who's the bust of the week. Jake, we'll get to that in a second. But we got Kelsey at tier 1 by himself. He plays the Packers today. Not a great matchup. Doesn't matter. Kelsey easily the top tight end. Then Kittle, I think, is tight end 2. I would not start any tight end over George Kittle unless I had Travis Kelsey. The 49ers and Eagles game, it's going to be a game you want pieces of for sure today. One of the highest over-under games. I really think the 49ers are going to show up to this game very, very ready. You think back to last playoffs, guys. The 49ers and the Eagles. And the 49ers were doing really well in that game, and then they had no quarterbacks left all of a sudden. And I really think that the 49ers are going to be out for blood today against the Eagles. I expect a really good game there, high-scoring game between the 49ers and the Eagles. I got Trey McBride at tight end 3. I think you could argue all day between this tier 3, McBride, Laporta, and Njoku, Evan Ingram, which order you want to go in there. But I would start all of those guys over Taysom Hill, who is the top of tier 4 for me today. I'm playing Taysom Hill over Pat Freiermuth and Logan Thomas and K. Dotton. I think Brevin Jordan is the sleeper tight end of the day for sure. Really like his price on DraftKings, $2,500. There's no Dalton Schultz today for the Texans, and the Broncos have been horrible against tight ends this season. They're dead last against tight ends. I do like him as a sleeper. But Trey McBride is a little bit scary. He's still tight end 3 because the target share has been consistent, but the Steelers have been good against tight ends, and the weather report is pretty concerning there for the passing game. So who's the bust of the week? Yeah, so I think one of the bust of the week is either going to be Tank Dell or Nico Collins. And if I had to choose one, I'd probably say it's going to be Tank Dell. And the reason that I'm nervous about Tank Dell, I still have him ranked very high because it's impossible not to have Tank Dell ranked high with how he's been performing of late. We have not seen a good receiver game against the Denver Broncos in quite some time. And if we're going to define a good game as 20 fantasy points, the last time that we saw a wide receiver score 20 fantasy points against the Denver Broncos was back in week 4, guys. This was 2 months ago that we saw a receiver go over 20 points against the Denver Broncos. Actually, that was the last time we saw any receiver go over 13 PPR points against the Denver Broncos. Nobody's done it. Garrett Wilson couldn't do it. Rashee Rice couldn't do it. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed couldn't do it. Steph Diggs, Gabe Davis couldn't do it. Jordan Addison didn't do it. Amari Cooper didn't do it. None of these receivers were able to go over 13 PPR points against the Denver Broncos. Their defense has been on absolute fire. After the Broncos defense started with a historically bad start in like their first 3 or 4 games, they have really done a complete 180. They've been one of the best secondaries in the NFL. I still think one of Nico and Tank Dell will do well just with how good the Texans passing attack has been. But I am nervous about the matchup here for them as well. I'm definitely nervous for them. Hey, Sam, Thielen, Sutton, or Hopkins, happy PR. Yeah, for me, it's Sutton easily. Can you talk about the Jaguars wide receivers? Yeah, for sure. I can talk about the Jags receivers. I think I have Ridley actually 1 or 2 spots ahead of Christian Kirk this week. I do think both are startable. Yeah, I got them both in tier 4. They're actually in the same tier as me this week for as Tank Dell and Nico Collins. The Bengals secondary has not been very scary. I actually think this is the Monday night game between the Jaguars and the Bengals. I think this one could end up being kind of high scoring if Jake Browning can give the Bengals some life here. I also really like Evan Ingram, though. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Evan Ingram's first touchdown of the season. The Bengals have been crushed, and I mean crushed, by tight ends this season. They've been like close to as bad as the Broncos. They've allowed the second most points per game to tight ends. We saw Pat Freiermuth have an all-time game, 9 catches, 120 yards against the Bengals last week. And we saw Mark Andrews, the game that he got hurt, he had 2 catches, 23 yards, almost had a touchdown in just 1 drive against the Bengals. A little bit of a misleading data point where he only finished with 4 points because he got hurt on the first drive. The week before that, Dalton Schultz had 12 points. Dalton Kincaid popped off for 16 points. George Kittle had 25 points against the Bengals. I do like Evan Ingram a lot. I like the floor and ceiling for him this week. But yeah, I like Ridley a little bit more than Christian Kirk with how they played of late. It does seem like Zay Jones has been helping Calvin Ridley. Laporta or Amari Cooper? Yeah, I hate starting 2 tight ends. I probably would go with Amari Cooper over Sam Laporta. Seeing someone ask for the running backs. Hey, Sam, should I start Brees or Najee? Yeah, you got to start Najee Harris over Brees this week. The matchup for, and I think I have, I'm actually going to change this quick. I would put Brees behind both Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris this week. And the main reason here is the matchup for Jaylen Warren, for Najee Harris. We have not seen a bad running back day against the Arizona Cardinals in months. And we just saw the Steelers show some real life on offense in their first game without Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator that they fired. And there's going to be significant wind and rain in this Steelers and Cardinals game. All of that bodes very well for Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren in a good matchup. I really like them both as a high floor, high ceiling play today. All right, my flex is a nightmare. Chase, Evans, Bijan. One has to sit. Yeah, you probably have to sit Chase. You can't sit Bijan Robinson against the Jets. You absolutely cannot do it. Evans and Chase is close. T. Higgins is going to be back this week. I really don't think that affects Chase that much. I would not be comfortable starting. It's actually Chase. You got to start Chase over Evans. Yeah, the matchup for Chase is just way better. The Panthers are not a great matchup for the passing attack for the Buccaneers today at all. Definitely a much better matchup here for Rachaad White than it is Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Sam the GOAT, keep up the good stuff and with the app and content. Thanks, Matt. Need some advice. Trevor Lawrence or Kyler, Cup or D-Hop, and Brees and Javonte. Yeah, so I think I do have Brees, and I have Javonte ahead of Brees. You got to start Javonte over Brees. I really think the Broncos offense will surprise some people today. This is like the best matchup we've seen for the Broncos in a little bit of time. I think specifically for the running backs too. They've had a tough stretch of running back matchups. Javonte had a 29% target share. He ran a route on 70% of the dropbacks for the Broncos last week, and they're underdogs again this week in a game where the Texans offense, legitimately, as good as the Broncos defense has been, will be able to score points and will push the Broncos to have to try to keep up. So yeah, I do like the Broncos offense. I do like Javonte Williams more than Brees. I really feel like if we're talking about going down with the ship for these running backs, Brees is like case number 1 of going down with the ship. Man, Tim Boyle. I still cannot wrap my head around how Tim Boyle is starting games in the NFL. Tim Boyle threw 1 touchdown in college. 1. He had 11 interceptions, 1 touchdown in college. His yards per attempt ranks in the 5th percentile of all college quarterbacks that have played in the NFL. That's in his college stats. It's mind-boggling to me that Tim Boyle is starting NFL games. It's not going to be good for anyone on the Jets. So yeah, I do like Javonte. And then Kupp versus D-Hop, I feel like this one's pretty close. And obviously my gut says Cooper Kupp, but it's so hard to trust Cooper Kupp right now with him not looking at 100%. It's not like DeAndre Hopkins has been super consistent either. I'm in half PPR. Let me switch this back to PPR. And yeah, it's Hopkins. Hopkins has the better matchup. And yeah, I am really scared about the Rams passing attack against the Browns. It's got to be Hopkins. Much better matchup here for Hopkins. The Titans are this game's projected to be really close to. I think they're 1-point underdogs here. Hey, Sam, pick one to start. Moss, Najee, or Singletary, PPR. Oh, I think there's another question there with Trevor Lawrence too. Let me just get back to this really quickly. Ask that one again. It was Trevor Lawrence, or I forget who the second quarterback was there. Moss, Najee, or Singletary, full PPR. Yeah, it's got to be Moss here. Guys, Zach Moss is a fantastic play today. He's my number 8 running back today. We've seen games where Zach Moss played without Jonathan Taylor, and he popped off in basically all of them. And actually, the last time we saw Zach Moss play without Jonathan Taylor was against the Titans, who he gets today. He has had at least 18 rushing attempts and at least 70 rushing yards in each of the 4 games he played without Jonathan Taylor this season, which includes a 165 rushing yard game against the Titans, who he's up against again this week. So yeah, Zach Moss easily could go over 100 total yards today. It's not even like the Titans have been bad against running backs, but the volume and the workload for Zach Moss today and how efficient Zach Moss has been this season, you got to feel really, really good about Zach Moss. And I definitely would be playing Najee Harris over Devin Singletary as well. Hey, Sam, pick one to start. Thielen or Montgomery or Najee? Yes, Najee. Over Thielen, it's Najee. Over David Montgomery as well for me this week. Eckler or Bijan? Yeah, so I got Eckler ranked ahead of Bijan. I don't feel great about it, but the usage has still been strong for Austin Eckler. I know he hasn't looked great. It's like a little bit of a smaller, to a less of a degree, Cooper Kupp situation where Eckler feels like he should be projecting really well, feels like he should be doing better than he is, but he doesn't quite look like himself at full steam. And he only had 10 carries last week, 10 carries the week before that. But the reason you really got to start him is the receiving role for Austin Eckler is still so elite, and the receiving situation for the pass catchers, for the Chargers. I mean, he is the second best receiver on the Chargers. He's had at least 6 catches now in 4 of his last 5 games. So if you're in a PPR league, you got to start Austin Eckler. You have to. There's really no path around that. And Bijan is definitely one of the guys I could argue to start Eckler. I feel like I could argue everyone up to Isaiah Pacheco here in my top 10 over Austin Eckler if I really, really wanted to. But yeah, I'm still starting Eckler over all those guys. I still think the TD ceiling, the touchdown ceiling for Austin Eckler is just so high every week. The receiving role so good. You got to start Austin Eckler. Sutton or Kirk? Yeah, I'm playing Sutton over Kirk. I do like Sutton a lot this week for sure. QBs, yeah, I'll go here. Definitely playing Montgomery over Singletary. Let me pull up the QBs here. And let me pull up also Singletary's game logs, because Singletary did have a good receiving day in the first game back with Dameon Pierce. The role actually didn't change that much for Singletary in Dameon Pierce's first game back. He still played 82% of the snaps, still had 13 fantasy points. He only had 6 carries, though. It's a good matchup for him against the Broncos defense that has been much better against the pass than the run. He had 7 targets, 20% target share in the first game back for Dameon Pierce. But yeah, I still worry about Devin Singletary and his role with Dameon Pierce back. And 6 carries is definitely a little concerning as well. Only 3 yards per carry as well last week against the Jaguars. I think he's like a back-end RB2 this week, or high-end RB3 this week. Moss or Najee? Yeah, Zach Moss over Najee Harris for sure. Oh, yeah, it's Kyler or T-Law. That makes sense. Let me pull the QB rankings here again. Let me go to the QB tiers on the TikTok Live as well. We're already on there. And yeah, I got Kyler and Trevor Lawrence back-to-back here in my rankings this week. And looking at the weather report here for Kyler, I'm a little bit nervous for Kyler today against the Steelers. The Steelers defense hasn't been horrible against quarterbacks this season. Again, scattered heavy rain in this Cardinals-Steelers game. And when the rain is heavy, there's also projected to be wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour. Now, it's not the end of the world for Kyler Murray, because he does get it done with his legs, as well. He had 45 passing attempts last week. Wow. 386 air yards, but still the passing yards per attempt were pretty low, and only 1 carry last week. But he's had rushed for a touchdown in 3 straight games now. But yeah, the Steelers are not a great matchup for quarterbacks this season. They're top 5 against QBs this year. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence, he gets a much better matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, and Trevor Lawrence has been cooking. Honestly, I think I'd go T-Law over Kyler as we're looking at this. I'm going to actually change this in my ranks. And those of you guys that have followed me for a while, you know that I do not suffer from take lock. And I think this is one of the most difficult things for content creators in this space is avoiding locking into takes, because it can be very easy to lock into your takes and try to defend your takes. But as I look into more information, I really think this is one of my biggest strengths as a content creator. I'm not going to lock into my takes. I'm going to adjust on the fly. And yeah, I would go Trevor Lawrence over Kyler Murray. I still think they're in a similar tier. I think they're both better options than like Jared Goff, Jordan Love, for example, especially with the rushing from Kyler. But yeah, I would go Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence coming off his two best games of the season, and he has another decent matchup this week against the Bengals. The big question here is, can the Bengals keep this game close enough that he'll throw enough? But I do think there's a real potential of that. Good morning, Sam. Hope you're doing good. I am doing great. I hope all of you are doing fantastic as well. We're week 13, guys. We are over 3 months into the season. We got 2 more weeks until the fantasy football regular season kicks off. I'm amped, man. I feel like I'm as locked in as I've ever been at this time of the year. Kyren Williams or Achane. Yes, so there's just no benching Kyren Williams with what he did last week, with the usage that he's seen this season. And don't get me wrong, I'm all aboard the Achane train. And I do think you can start Achane this week. I'm a little less bullish as I was the first time he returned, just because of what we saw in that game where he tweaked his knee like on the first drive, and we didn't see him again in that game. You got to expect the Dolphins to be a little bit careful with Devon Achane, even though they're saying he's 100%, even though he's off the injury report. Like, we're not going to see a 20-touch game here from Devon Achane. I think it's going to be the 10 to 15-touch range. We've seen Achane do a lot with 10 to 15 touches in the past. I mean, we've seen him go for 27 points and 22 points in just his last 2 full games that we saw, and he only had 10 to 15 touches in those games. And man, I mean, the real ceiling though is what we saw back in week 3, where he got 18 carries and 4 catches, 22 touches. That's the type of game that really gets me excited for Achane. But yeah, you got to start Kyren Williams. The usage has just been so insane. We got last week, they said they were going to ease him into action. He saw 16 carries. He had 6 catches, 22 touches, 38.4 points against the Cardinals. By the way, this is another big reason I like Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren this week. We just saw a 38-point bomb against the Arizona Cardinals. And I think we're going to see Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren combined for close to this today. It's definitely a worse matchup here for him against the Browns, but the Rams are not going to be able to pass very successfully against the Cleveland Browns. That means they're going to have to run with Kyren Williams, and he's like PPR-wise, his ceiling is just so good too with how much he gets in the passing game. Rice, Devontae Smith, or Deontay Johnson? Yeah, so you got to be starting Devontae Smith, guys. There's absolutely no way around it. You need to start Devontae Smith for sure. Without Dallas Goedert in the lineup, Devontae Smith is a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football. I got him ranked at number 5 today, and he's also the free player prop of the day. This is Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions. He has a 33% target share in the last 2 games without Dallas Goedert. He has over 4.5 catches in each of those pretty easily, actually. He got 6 catches and 7 catches. I really think this line should be at 5.5 in a game projected to be one of the highest scoring games of the week. Start Devontae Smith. We are 20 wins and 9 losses on the free player props this season, and I'm going with Devontae Smith today. I think it's like minus 140 odds. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this prop moved to 5.5 before the start of the game. That's the free player prop of the day. Make sure you lock this one in. All right, we got a question here about Taysom Hill. And yeah, I do think there's some interesting Taysom Hill decisions this week for sure. I'll pull up my tight end tiers here on the TikTok live, pull up my tight end rankings on the YouTube live. As always, guys, by the way, the best way you could possibly support me, check out the Walter Picks app. It's free. It's what I'm showing on the YouTube screen right now. It's what I was just showing on the TikTok live with the prop evaluator before. It's in the TikTok bio. It's in the YouTube description. It's going to help you so much in all of your fantasy, all of your sports betting, any type of NFL or NBA research you do, the Walter Picks app can help you for free. So check it out. It's in the description in the bio. All right, Taysom Hill or McBride, and Cooper Kupp or Jamar Chase, both PPR. So it's Jamar Chase over Cooper Kupp pretty easily with the matchups that they both have this week. And then I'm playing McBride over Taysom Hill if I'm playing it safe. This is the question you got to ask yourself. Do you want to play it safe? Because the usage McBride has been seeing, he absolutely is the safer option here. He ranks as tight end 3 in the Walter Picks app. He's my tight end 3 this week as well. But Taysom Hill's ceiling is much higher, in my opinion. Walter's got the ceiling higher for Trey McBride. I would disagree with that. And the reason I would disagree with that is look at some of these ceiling games we've seen from Taysom Hill. We saw 3 games in his last 5 go over 15 points. And the reason is he's getting red zone carries and he's getting red zone passing attempts too. There's no tight end that gets all 3 of those things. And then you look at the receiving situation for the Saints today. There's no Rashid Shaheed. There's no Michael Thomas. Chris Olave is going to play. But Taysom Hill is going to get 10 plus touches, I think, in this game, whether that be through passing attempts, rushing attempts, or targets. But yeah, the Trey McBride usage has just been so incredibly consistent. He is not coming off the field. He's seeing very consistent targets. We have not seen Trey McBride fall below a 20% target share since week 7. The Steelers have been good against tight ends, though, and the weather report in this game is a little bit concerning. I don't think that Trey McBride has the same ceiling as Taysom Hill today, but I think he's a pretty good bet for close to 10 PPR points with the usage he's seeing. So yeah, I would go Trey McBride over Taysom Hill personally, because Taysom Hill's floor is close to 0 points, if we're being honest. But the ceiling for Taysom Hill does get me excited, and I do think you can play him if you're looking for a ceiling game. I would play Taysom Hill over Logan Thomas, for example. I'm playing Taysom Hill over Pat Freiermuth, Logan Thomas, K. Dotton, Brevin Jordan. I do like Brevin Jordan as a sleeper tight end if you need one. Rashee Rice or Hollywood Brown? Yeah, I think I would go with Rashee Rice there. Would you rather start the Colts or Chargers defense? You got to like the Chargers defense a lot today. Would you rather start Downs, Rashee Rice, or Cooper Kupp? Yeah, so let me go to the tight end tiers here again. The wide receiver tiers here again on the TikTok Live. I'll go to the wide receiver rankings on the YouTube Live as well. I think there's some really, really difficult decisions today for fantasy at the wide receiver position. You got guys like Cooper Kupp, who I would play over Rashee Rice. I would play Cooper Kupp over Deontay Johnson. I would play Cooper Kupp over Chris Godwin, over Christian Watson, over Drake London. I would play Cooper Kupp over both the guys that were in that question. Marquise Brown versus Cooper Kupp, super close one for me. I think I would probably lean Marquise Brown over Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp gets a really tough matchup today against the Cleveland Browns. Cooper Kupp is clearly not at full health as well. So I think it's reasonable to be benching Cooper Kupp today. And I do like Puka Nacua a little bit more than him as well. Ridley, McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Garrett Wilson, all guys that I would start over Cooper Kupp. Dell or Ramondre Stevenson? Yeah, I think I would probably. I think Dell is a lot riskier than Ramondre, but I probably would still start Dell. All right, let's get back to some of these start-sit comments. Montgomery or Hopkins? Yeah, I think I would lean Hopkins over Monty. Dortch or Hubbard at Flex Full PPR. Love the app. Has me in top 4 in all of my leagues. Thanks, Zach, for saying that. Pumped to hear the app has been helping. And thanks for tuning into the live, man. I do appreciate it. This is a close one. And Greg Dortch has been surprisingly consistent. It's pretty clear that Greg Dortch is going to have a consistent role as long as Kyler Murray is the starter. There is a connection there. Going back to last season too, he's got back-to-back games now with Kyler with at least 8 targets, at least a 20% target share in back-to-back weeks. And now he gets the Steelers. Again, the weather is a tiny bit scary in this game. Let's do this comparison though. Chuba Hubbard versus Marquise Brown. I do think Chuba Hubbard versus Greg Dortch, not Marquise Brown. I do think Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders any given week have huge bust potential. Last week it was Chuba Hubbard's game. Any given week, though, Chuba Hubbard starts slow, and all of a sudden it's a Miles Sanders game. Chuba Hubbard, 14 carries. He did have 5 targets last week, a really good receiving role. Last week, he gets the Bucs today, though. Really tough matchup for running backs. Not a matchup I like to attack at the running back position. I'm okay, honestly, going Dortch here and disagreeing with Walter on this one. I'm okay going Dortch over Chuba Hubbard. I do think the floor similar here between these two guys, and the ceiling, I would argue, is higher for Greg Dortch. Help a girl out. Jenny, I got you. Brees, Monty, Pacheco, Achane, Hubbard, Jamar Chase. Need 3 PPR, please. Yeah, so you got to start Pacheco here. 100% Pacheco is the best option in this list. There's no Jerick McKinnon again today. So let's remove Pacheco from this question, and let's start 2 out of the rest of this list. Look at this usage for Isaiah Pacheco in these games where Jerick McKinnon has either been not 100% or just not active. Last week, guys, Pacheco ran a route on half of the dropbacks for the Chiefs. He had a 16% target share, 5 targets, 34 receiving yards. That is really, really good stuff for Pacheco, who's been really effective on the ground this season. He actually coming off one of his worst least efficient rushing games in the last month. But he's seen at least 15 carries now in 3 straight. He's seeing targets, and the Packers have not been good against running backs. So you got to start Isaiah Pacheco. Then we got Brees, Monty, Achane. You're not starting Chuba Hubbard here. I do think you got to start Jamar Chase. So you got to start one out of Brees, Monty, and Achane. So let's narrow the question down there. You're going to start Jamar Chase. You're going to start Isaiah Pacheco. You're not going to start Chuba Hubbard here. And we're going to go Montgomery versus Brees versus Achane. I'm going to look at this one, and all 3 decent options here. I would say Montgomery projects the best just slightly. It looks like Achane is the worst option of the 3, despite having the best matchup of the 3. And I'd argue Achane has the highest ceiling of the 3 with the ceiling we've seen from him. But the floor is kind of low with what we saw in his first game back off of injury last time. I think I would go Monty here over Achane and over Brees. I am definitely concerned about Brees in a tough matchup, and with Tim Boyle starting, I expect Brees Hall to be going down with the ship again. So yeah, my answer here would be David Montgomery, Jamar Chase, and Isaiah Pacheco. What do you think about Miles Sanders? I think you should stay as far away from Miles Sanders as you possibly can in fantasy. Miles Sanders feels like one of these brutal fantasy football situations where like you can't drop him, but you can't start him. And those are some of the worst situations in fantasy. There's some other guys like that too, where you can't start him and you can't drop him. Like Jahan Dotson has been a little bit like that this season too. At least there's some weeks you could argue you could start Jahan Dotson, but yeah, this is not a week you can start Miles Sanders against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and with Chuba Hubbard out touching him, outplaying him. Miles Sanders is just he's not startable in almost all situations. Rashee Rice or Puka Nacua, full PPR. Yeah, so I think I'm going to say Puka Nacua here. I am nervous for Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. The ceiling for Puka Nacua is just higher. It is. I think Rashee Rice is coming off one of his best games, though, of the season, right? Yeah, he is. His best game of the season, 24 points. He had 10 targets. He finally saw the target share that he needs to see in their last game against the Raiders. 10 targets. He caught 8 of those, 107 yards, and a touchdown for 25 points. He was the wide receiver 3 last week. Now he gets a spot against the Packers. Puka Nacua gets a horrible matchup against the Browns. But yeah, Puka's still been so much better than Rashee Rice this season. Look at the consistency for the target volume for Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua does not have a game under 7 targets this entire season. So yeah, I'd still go Puka over Rice, but I understand where the question's coming from, and I do think it's close. Michael Pittman or Jamar Chase? Yeah, so there's no benching Michael Pittman this week, guys. I don't know if I'm going to tell a single person on this live stream to bench Michael Pittman this week. If I go to the wide receiver tiers, God, I keep hitting the ginger man effect on TikTok. That's very funny. All right, wide receiver tiers here. I got Michael Pittman in tier 2. The only receivers I'm starting over Michael Pittman this week, Devontae Smith, I would argue for, but I think you could even argue Michael Pittman over Devontae Smith. I'm starting Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill. That's it. Like, Pittman's a top 5 option this week. Yeah, as good as Jamar Chase is, with Jake Browning being the quarterback, I'm definitely going Pittman. The consistency for Michael Pittman, guys, has been pretty much unmatched this season. There's very, very few wide receivers I want on my fantasy teams more than Michael Pittman at this point of the season. He has not had under 8 targets since week 7. Look at these target shares. He's had over at least a 33% target share in 4 straight games. And it's really not a horrible matchup here for him against the Titans either in what's projected to be a close game, coming off a 10-catch, 107-yard performance with no touchdowns. So yeah, start Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman would have been wide receiver 2 last week had he scored a touchdown, which he actually came close to doing. Herbert or Tua? Yes, so you're not benching Tua this week. The only quarterback that I think we can debate back and forth about whether or not to start over Tua is Brock Purdy. Jalen Hurts needs to be started for sure over everybody this week at quarterback. And then like I'm down to debate with you Purdy versus Tua. Let's do that comparison actually right now because I'm sure some of you need to think through this one. I think that it's a win-win kind of decision here between Brock Purdy and Tua. Both have good matchups. Both are surrounded by, but Brock Purdy and Tua, they're really in similar situations where both are surrounded by just insanely efficient talent. Brock Purdy even more so, I would argue, than Tua with the 4 weapons Brock Purdy has versus the 2, maybe 2.5 you could say if you're going to include Devon Achane in there for Tua. But the weapons surrounding these 2 guys are just so much better than what other quarterbacks have. We got Brock Purdy surrounded by the best receiving back, arguably of all time. I think he is the best receiving back of all time in Christian McCaffrey. He's got George Kittle, a top 3 tight end in the league. And then he's got Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, 2 of the best receivers after the catch in the NFL. And now he gets a matchup against the Eagles secondary, who has been obliterated in the passing game this season. And part of the reason the Eagles secondary has been so crushed is the Eagles offense is so good that teams need to keep throwing, and their defensive line is so elite that you cannot run against the Philadelphia Eagles. That'll be interesting to see, though, for the 49ers today, because they are a run-first offense at their core. But then you get Tua against the Washington Commanders, who are probably the only defense I would argue is a better matchup for passing attacks than the Philadelphia Eagles. And man, please, Sam Howell, please, Commanders offense, keep this game close. Because if this game stays close, we could legitimately see Tyreek Hill break receiving records today against the Washington Commanders. Only 30 passing attempts for Tua against the Jets, only 21 completions. That game was not close for very long. The Commanders, if they keep this game close, I'm telling you, we could see records broken in this game from the Dolphins passing attack. So yeah, that you guys are Tua over Herbert. That's a long-winded answer, but I did want to touch on Tua and Brock Purdy today. I think if you're playing in DFS, you got to be either playing Brock Purdy, Tua, or Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's pretty slept on. A lot of people will be playing Brock and Tua today, but I think those are the 2 quarterbacks that I'm most excited to play in DFS. I'll pull up my DraftKings lineup here actually on the YouTube live really quick to talk through that. Warren or Achane? Yeah, I like Warren more than Achane. Today I'll pull my running back ranks here again on the TikTok live. So on DraftKings today, here's the lineup I liked the most. I'm triple stacking here. And this is a tournament lineup. And we've only seen 1 or 2 triple stacks actually hit the money here in first place in some of these tournaments this season. But I really think there's a chance here if this Eagles and 49ers game stays close and is as high scoring as I think it could be, that the triple stack with Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle really could work today in this game if we see it as high scoring as I expect. And I'm running it back with just Devontae Smith on the Eagles side of this stack. So I'm playing a lot of guys here in the Eagles and 49ers game. I think if you want to mix it up with this lineup, then take out one of Deebo, Ayuk, and Kittle. I really like Brevin Jordan at 2,500 on DraftKings this week with his matchup against the Broncos. They've been dead last against tight ends this season, and there's no Dalton Schultz today. Need 2 running backs in a flex: Warren, Pacheco, Swift, Bijan, Rice. Yes, you're not playing Rice here. You're not playing Rice. You got to start Pacheco. You got to start Bijan. And then Jalen Warren versus Swift. I would go Warren over Swift personally. And you got to bench Rashee Rice too. So you're going Bijan, Pacheco, and Warren. And Denver Teague, thanks for doing the TikTok live subscription. I really do appreciate it. Puka or Marquise? Yeah, that one's close. I think I probably would go with Puka Nacua over Marquise. Warren or Najee over Curtis Samuel in PPR flex? Yeah, I would go Warren and Najee Harris over Curtis Samuel in PPR flex. All right, starts and sits. Yeah, I'll pull this up here. Short list for me here with the main takeaways in the start sit list on TikTok. Anyways, I like Devontae Parker and the Patriots defense on DraftKings this week too at their prices. There is no Demario Douglas, who's been by far the best receiver for the Patriots this season. No Demario Douglas today. Kendrick Bourne is still out. Someone's going to have to step up in this receiving group. And why not today against the Chargers secondary that has been horrible this whole season? Why not today where Bailey Zappi finally has an actual full week to prepare as the starter and is not thrust into the game in the fourth quarter? This game also has a pretty low over-under, which I like for the Patriots defense. So I honestly feel better about the Pats defense than I do Devontae Parker today, even though they're playing Justin Herbert. They're at home. There's going to be heavy rain in this game. Low over-under game. I think the Pats defense is priced too low today. And then Zach Moss, he's going to be the chalkiest of all chalk in DraftKings this week. I've seen out there Zach Moss's projected potential, the highest ownership percentage of the entire season on DraftKings. They priced him just so low before the Jonathan Taylor news came out. Zach Moss needs to be in all your lineups. Eat the chalk, I think, with Zach Moss this week. Hey, Sam, should I start Singletary over Achane / James Conner? And should I start Curtis Samuel over Garrett Wilson? Singletary over Achane / I would not start Singletary over Achane. I don't think. Let me pull the running back tiers here again. I'll pull the running back ranks here again as well. Yeah, I wouldn't do this. I would start Achane and Connor. I actually have Achane and Connor back-to-back here in my running back rankings. I would start Achane and Connor over Singletary, and then start Curtis Samuel over Garrett Wilson, or should I go grab Robert Woods? Do not start Robert Woods over Curtis Samuel or Garrett Wilson. Curtis Samuel is definitely an option today, for sure. He's one of the better sleepers. I don't know if I'd start him over Garrett Wilson, though. I certainly worry about Garrett Wilson with Tim Boyle. He actually did fine, though, last week with Tim Boyle. Yeah, you got to go Garrett Wilson. It's a better matchup here for Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel's coming off a good game too, I believe. Yeah, he is with 19 points. But look at the floor here for Curtis Samuel. I mean, the floor is under 3 fantasy points, which he did 2 in his last 3 games. Tight end ranks. Yeah, I got you with the tight end ranks here. I think the tight end ranks are pretty straightforward. Kelsey's in a tier of his own, then Kittle's in a tier of his own. The only reason I would be benching George Kittle today is if I have Travis Kelsey. After that, I like McBride, Laporta, and Njoku and Evan Ingram. After that, I really want to be starting Taysom Hill on an offense that needs some talent here. And I'll go to the wide receiver rankings next over on TikTok. Bijan, Swift, Moss, and Gibbs, full PPR. Yeah, you got to start Bijan. You got to start Moss. And yeah, I think I would go with Gibbs here too. You got to bench DeAndre Swift in this one. And then also Amari, Nico, or Thielen. Yeah, I'm still leaning Nico Collins here over Amari and Thielen, but I'm telling you, one of Nico Collins or Tank Dell is going to bust today against the Denver Broncos. But yeah, you still got to start Nico Collins with how consistent his targets have been. Who should I start? Howell, Pickett, or Love? Yeah, it's Howell here for sure. You got to start Sam Howell against the Dolphins. And please, Sam Howell, please keep this game close so we can see just an all-time day here from the Dolphins passing attack. But yeah, Sam Howell, guys, you look at some of these stats for Sam Howell, and it's pretty mind-boggling how good Sam Howell has been for fantasy football. And part of the reason is how bad the secondary is for the Commanders, how bad the defense is. Sam Howell needs to throw so much every single game. I do not think this one's very close, honestly. And we look at some of the stats here, and Sam Howell is going to crush both these quarterbacks in basically all fantasy stats this season. He has a little bit worse of a matchup than Kenny Pickett, but I would argue this matchup is a little bit worse than it seems because of the weather projected in this Cardinals-Steelers game. Going to be significant rain and some significant wind in this game as well. But yeah, look at this. Sam Howell averaging more points per game than Jordan Love and Kenny Pickett, averaging more total yards per game than both of them. A little bit less in the touchdowns. You look at the rushing stats too. Yards per carry, touchdowns are up there for Sam Howell. He's averaging more passing yards per game, a little bit under in the touchdown column, more passing attempts. Look at these passing attempts for Sam Howell, man. I mean, over 40 passing attempts per game. He is leading the NFL in pass attempts per game, guys. Really, truly unreal stuff here in the usage for Sam Howell. He is a very good option for sure. Top 8 option. All right, we're going to the wide receiver rankings next here in the TikTok live. Kyler or Goff? Yeah, I would lean Kyler over Goff. I think the most notable, Alvin, good morning to you. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to all of you guys. If you're watching live on YouTube, we're just about an hour into this live. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're watching live on TikTok. Make sure you hit the follow button. Seriously, guys, I appreciate you all so much. I look forward to these every single Sunday morning. And man, I can't believe we're over 3 months into the season. And I can't believe we got 2 more weeks till the fantasy playoffs. But man, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And I'm ready for this Sunday. It's going to be a fun Sunday, man. Start Mostert or Monty. Already started Gibbs and Javonte. Or should I flex Christian Kirk in a half PPR league? This is a really interesting one, Alvin. These are definitely some tough decisions. And I have several leagues, Alvin, where I have both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Actually, my team name in those leagues is Lions versus Gazelles. But I do really like, just in general, the David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs stack together. Because I think it's one of these stacks I really like today, specifically too. I think the Najee Harris, Jalen Warren stack is kind of similar, where like you just know at least one of these guys with how much usage these backfields gets, how much usage this backfield gets, and how good this offensive line is. At least one of them is going to have a good game, and really both can have good games the same week. I'm going to pull up Christian Kirk here. We're going to go to half PPR as well because I appreciate the scoring setting insight here because I do think this could affect the answer a bit. And yeah, I think you go with the Monty Gibbs stack. Do the stack with Gibbs and Monty. They're going to combine for over 25 points like almost every single week. So yeah, I like the Monty Gibbs stack. I think there's a case for Mostert here against the Commanders. Pretty good spot for him. And if this was PPR, there'd be a better case for Christian Kirk. But in half PPR, you got to go with one of these running backs. Yeah, I would go Monty and Gibbs and Javonte. I think there's 3 really good running back options for you for sure. All right, Greg Dortch, Devontae Parker, or Trey Palmer, flex PPR league. Love these deep league questions for sure. And it's got to be Devontae Parker, I think, here if you're going for the ceiling. If you're going for the floor, it's got to be Greg Dortch, and you cannot start Trey Palmer this week against the Carolina Panthers, who have been actually pretty good against the passing attacks and actually pretty terrible against rushing offenses, which is a pretty interesting spot here actually for the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers want to be a passing offense, but I don't know if they will be today, how heavy they really will be able to pass the ball. I like Devontae Parker a lot against this Charger secondary, at least in terms of the ceiling. Greg Dortch is probably going to get more targets, probably going to get more receptions. He's definitely going to project better, but yeah, man, the Chargers have been crushed. I mean, crushed by receivers this season. They have not stopped passing attacks, and you got to think, like, there's not very many better situations here for Bailey Zappe's first start of the season. The first game where we really get to see Bailey Zappe get a full week to prepare. And now he gets the Chargers, who they let up 23 points to Zay Flowers last week. The week before that, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed both went over 15 points. The week before that, Amon-Ra St. Brown had a 30 bomb against the Chargers. The week before that, Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson starting had 13 points. Rashee Rice, Marcus Valdes-Scantling had some of their best games of the season against the Chargers. Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb easily went over 15 points against the Chargers. And Devontae Parker is the best receiver for the Patriots today, and it's not particularly close. It's not Tyquan Thornton. It's not Booty. It's not any of these absolutely terrible receivers that the Patriots are surrounding Bailey Zappe with. But yeah, I would go for the ceiling, honestly, with this one and go with Devontae Parker given the matchup. But I think if you're playing it safe, you go with Greg Dortch, especially if it's a PPR league. Happy Sunday, Sam. We got one spot to fill in my lineup between Collins, Warren, Achane, and Olave. Full PPR, what do you think? Thanks, as always. Yeah, so this one for me is between Warren and Olave. And Nico Collins is definitely in the mix here too. I would play all these guys, I think, over Achane this week after what we saw in Achane's first game back. I do not think Achane's getting over 15 touches in this game. And I think Collins is probably going to project the best here. But I would argue probably for Warren or Olave. I really think Olave is a really good option this week. He somehow got through the concussion protocol super fast. He's got a good matchup here against the Lions. The Broncos have been really good against receivers. I think they're even better than 7th first receivers, this is the full game points allowed in fantasy against the position. because they, like, the first 3 weeks, they were horrible. And since then, they've been really elite. We have not seen a receiver go over 15 PPR points against the Denver Broncos since week 4. It's been 2 months since we've seen a receiver go over 15 points. I actually think it's been 13 points. Not a single receiver gone over 13 PPR points against the Broncos since DJ Moore did it back in week 4. So, yeah, I would go Olave, honestly, here. Looking at these numbers of the matchups, I think Olave has just a really, really high floor and a pretty elite ceiling here against the Detroit Lions. He's the only receiver still standing for the Saints. There's no Rashid Shaheed. There's no Michael Thomas. There's just no way Lynn Bowden or A.T. Perry are going to command significant targets away from Chris Olave, who's had at least a 20% target share for 2 straight months. So, yeah, I'm going Chris Olave here personally. Najee, Javonte, Sutton, Godwin, or Kupp. Pick 2 PPR. Let me pull the wide receiver rings here up on the YouTube live. I got my wide receiver tiers up. I'll go running backs next here. Seeing some people ask for that in the TikTok live. Taysom or Tyler Boyd? I'd probably go Taysom over Tyler Boyd with T. Higgins back. Najee, Javonte, Sutton, Godwin, or Kupp. Pick 2. Yeah, so you got to bench the last 2 here for sure. This one's between Najee, Javonte, and Sutton. I think I would go Najee and Javonte. I think the floor is just really good for those guys. I do like Sutton a lot too, though. In a PPR league, I feel like Sutton's probably going to project better than both these guys. Let's see this. Sutton, Javonte Williams, and Najee. And I don't really love playing receivers and running backs from the same team. I would go Javonte and Najee. I would go Javonte and Najee. I do really like the Broncos offense today, but I think the floor and ceiling for Najee and Jalen Warren are really high. Cooper, Hopkins, Garrett Wilson, pick 2. Thanks for doing the TikTok live subscription there. And I think, yeah, I'm benching Amari Cooper here. I'm playing Hopkins and Garrett Wilson. I cannot believe, too, we're going to see Joe Flacco play today, guys. We're seeing Joe Flacco today on our TV screens. Unbelievable stuff, honestly. Too many good options this week. Pick 3, Gibbs, Corinne, Waddle, Devontae in a different league, PPR, Achane or ETN. I think I would go ETN over Achane. You can't bench these first 2. It's Waddle versus Devontae, and I think I have both these guys in my top 7 receivers. You're right, too many good options here for sure. And I do have Devontae over Waddle. With Goddard out, I mean, Devontae's usage has been insane. I'm okay going Devontae over Waddle. It's close, though. For sure, it's close. They're both in my top 10. And, yeah, I would go ETN over Achane for sure. Pull up the tight end rankings here next on the YouTube live. Dell or Sutton. Yeah, I do think I'm nervous about Tank Dell. I'm nervous about Tank Dell today for sure. He still has to be started over Courtland Sutton, though. Juwan Johnson or Everett? Yeah, it's Juwan. It's Juwan Johnson over Everett. I wanted to get to this. I saw a Joe Flacco question that I wanted to get to. Let me see if I can find this one again. What was the last time we saw Joe Flacco play? Let me pull this up. I wouldn't be shocked to see Joe Flacco absolutely pepper Amari Cooper and David Njoku with targets today and just like not even look at anyone else. The last time we saw Joe Flacco play was last season for the Miami Dolphins. Sorry, against the Miami Dolphins. I think it was for the New York Jets. His completion percentage, he did not have a completion percentage above 60% in a single game except for week 1 last year. His last 3 games, guys, so the last 2 games that Joe Flacco had actual passing attempts, which is week 18 of last year and week 3 of last year, he had 5.4 points and 5.7 points. He was the last quarterback in the rankings each of those 2 weeks. Joe Flacco is definitely not startable this week and definitely a big concern. Elite Joe Flacco is I would say the opposite of elite at this point of his career. Joe Flacco is 39 years old. I was honestly surprised that he was still trying to play, just in general, that he was like an active free agent. I almost thought he retired already, but I guess not. The last time we saw Joe Flacco average more than 12 PPR points. Doesn't really matter PPR for quarterbacks. The last time we saw Joe Flacco score more than 12 points per game in a season was 2018. Think about where you were in 2018. That's 5 years ago. The last time we saw Joe Flacco average more than 12 points per game. And he has played in several games, full games, over those last 5 years. I think we're probably going to see him go under 12 points today. All right, Rashee Rice, Chuba Hubbard, or Amari Cooper. 3-year subscriber. Thanks, man. Marcus, I appreciate you, man. I would go Rashee Rice here over Chuba Hubbard and over Amari Cooper. Brees, Monty, or Achane. Yeah, I'd go Monty. Then I'd go Brees. Then I'd go Achane. I would start Ridley over Adam Thielen. I think that one's pretty close. I do think Adam Thielen is in a good matchup this week. But yeah, I would go Ridley over Thielen with how they have played of late, respectively. Dell or Sutton. Yeah, so I do have Dell ranked ahead of Sutton. And I feel not so great about this one, honestly. Tank Dell is going to project better than Sutton here in the Walter Picked app for sure. Tank Dell has been absolutely balling. Tank Dell has been a top 10 wide receiver, guys, over the last month. But these two teams play each other today. We got the Denver Broncos playing the Houston Texans. And I'll say it again for the people in the back. We have not seen a wide receiver go over 13 PPR points against the Denver Broncos since week 4. It has been 2 months since we've seen a receiver have just a okay day. Like 13 points. It's not a great day in the grand scheme of fantasy football. It's an okay day. Like, you'll live with it. We haven't seen a receiver do that, go over that, since week 4 when DJ Moore did it. This was during the stretch where the Broncos defense was getting absolutely torn to threads. And we haven't seen this defense have let up a good receiver day since. And it's not like they haven't played good receivers, guys. They played Steph Diggs. They played Rashee Rice. They played Garrett Wilson in this stretch. They played Amari Cooper, Jordan Addison in this stretch. It's not like they haven't played any good receivers. So yeah, I'm pretty, and they played Pat Mahomes too. They played the Packers passing attack, which has been pretty good of late. They did nothing against the Denver Broncos. So yeah, I'm nervous about the floor for both Tank Dell and Nico Collins. They're going to restart TikTok Live, having some Wi-Fi issues there. But I'm definitely nervous just in general that at least one, if not both, of these receivers are going to bust today. And still, you kind of have to start Tank Dell over Courtland Sutton with how good that he's been. Let me pull up the game logs here for him right now. But the game logs speak for themselves. And Tank Dell is just on a heater of all heaters here. He's had at least 14 points in 4 straight games. 2 games here over 24 points. The targets have been extremely consistent. Tank Dell has scored a touchdown in 4 straight. He has 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games. He does knock on under a 23% target share in 4 straight games. Noah Brown is back this week. I don't think that's going to be a huge hit for Tank Dell. But yeah, man, the matchup's tough. The matchup's very tough. The Texans passing attack has 3 tough matchups in their next 4 games. So we'll see how they do there. This week definitely will be telling. But I still think it's Tank over Sutton. I'm pretty nervous in general for him. Puka Nacua, Olave, and Ford pick 2 non-PPR. Yes, it's the first 2. Even though it's non-PPR, it's the first 2 here. I would go Puka and Olave. Olave, guys, is an elite option today for sure. Zach Moss or Derrick Henry? Yeah, it's Zach Moss over Derrick Henry. Singletary, Corinne, or Travis Etienne? Yeah, it's Corinne and Travis Etienne. Should I start Zach Moss? Yes, start Zach Moss, guys. Start Zach Moss 100%. Let me pull up my running back rankings here. I'll pull up the running back tiers on TikTok as well. But, guys, Zach Moss absolutely needs to be started. Let me say this one again for the people in the back as well. Zach Moss has had at least 18 rushing attempts and at least 70 rushing yards in each of the 4 games he played without Jonathan Taylor this season, including a 165-yard rushing game against the Tennessee Titans, who he is up against again today. He could easily go over 100 yards today. Zach Moss is going to get minimum 15 touches today. And that really has him locked in as a high-end, like a back-end, high-end running back 1. I think he's a top 12 running back today. I have him ranked at the very top of tier 3. The only running backs I'm playing over Zach Moss today are Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson, Austin Eckler, Corinne Williams, and Christian McCaffrey. That's it. Those are the only running backs I'm going to be playing over Zach Moss today. And yeah, all this green you guys are seeing in the game logs over on YouTube for Zach Moss, these are all the games he played without Jonathan Taylor. He had 19 points, 22 points, 9 points, and 33 points respectively in those games. He's been incredibly efficient this season. His yards per carry, 4.5 yards per carry for Zach Moss so far this year. And man, look where Walter has him ranked really, really confidently today at running back 2 over Corinne Williams, over Bijan Robinson, over Austin Eckler. Zach Moss, by the way, his ownership percentage today on DraftKings, I think we're going to see the highest ownership percentage for any single player this season with where they priced him. All right, Deebo Samuel or T. Higgins. Yeah, I would go Deebo Samuel over T. Higgins for sure. I think I just had the Joe Flacco question up and then brought it down. I will try to get that up again. We need a Josh Allen replacement. Yeah, the Bills are on bye this week. Stafford, Mayfield, Carr, or Minshew. Yeah, let's go to the QB tiers here. I think this one's kind of close. Pull up the QB rankings here as well on the YouTube Live. It's Minshew. I think I got Minshew at the top of tier 5, ahead of Mayfield. I don't feel great about Mayfield at all today against the Panthers. Derek Carr, I don't know how we can trust him. He's got Chris Olave at least playing in this game, and at least it's an interesting spot for him against the Lions. But we have seen zero big games from Derek Carr this season, and you cannot start Stafford at all against the Browns. So yeah, I think I would probably go sort of by process of elimination here with Gardner Minshew. In a not terrible matchup here against the Tennessee Titans. Hey, Sam, is it crazy to start Rashee Rice over Garrett Wilson this week? I wouldn't say it's the craziest thing because look who Garrett Wilson's catching passes from. He's catching passes from Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle, guys, was not a good college football quarterback. He was bad in college football. He had 1 touchdown, passing touchdown in college. He had 11 interceptions. Not only that, I don't even care that much about the TD to interception ratio. You know, maybe that was the team thing. Maybe he had a horrible offense or whatever. But guys, the yards per attempt for Tim Boyle in college was 5.5. That ranks in the 5th percentile. That means 95% of all quarterbacks. Some of these quarterbacks we've never even seen play that are backups in the league. 95% of these guys were more efficient in college than Tim Boyle. Now he's on the Jets, where he had 4.7 yards per attempt last week against the Dolphins. Now he gets the Falcons defense in a game that's going to have intermittent heavy rain today. You're not crazy for thinking about Rashee Rice over Garrett Wilson. I still think I'd probably, all that being said, Garrett Wilson in his one game with Tim Boyle last week, he still had 14 PPR points. He still scored a touchdown. He's still by far the best receiver on the Jets. Garrett Wilson, guys, he's number 1 in the NFL in target share. Let me say this again for the people in the back. Garrett Wilson leads the NFL in target share. He has not had a game where he didn't have a good target share. There's really no other receivers you can say this about this season. He has not been under a 27% target share once this entire season. He's played with Zach Wilson. Now he's playing with Tim Boyle. Doesn't matter. He's just so by far the best receiver on the team. And he's just so talented enough to get open that he leads the NFL in target share. 33% target share for Garrett Wilson this season. So I'm okay going with Garrett Wilson over Rashee Rice. Let's do this comparison though. Let's finish this thought here because I don't think it's that crazy. Wow, Rashee Rice actually, this is half PPR though. Let me switch this to PPR. I wonder if that changes things a bit. It probably does. It doesn't enough. Wow, Rashee, you're not that crazy, I guess, is all we're saying here. I think I would probably still go Garrett Wilson over Rashee Rice personally, but it is close. Njoku or Trey McBride? Yeah, I'm going McBride over Njoku. Njoku does have a much better matchup though for sure. Marquise Brown or Cooper Kupp, I would go Marquise. Mixon or Achane? Yeah, let me go to the running back tiers here for Mixon versus Achane. I got them in the same tier, down in tier 5 this week, and I would go Mixon over Achane this week. I think it's close though. Non-PPR, Chase or Olave? Yeah, I think I would go Olave over Chase. Oh, God, I have them back-to-back here actually in my rankings. It's close. I really like the matchup for Olave, though. I think in non-PPR, I'm okay doing it. Pacheco or Hall, you cannot bench Isaiah Pacheco this week in the vast majority of situations. I got Isaiah Pacheco ranked as my running back 9 this week. The only running backs I'm playing over Pacheco are Zach Moss, Rashad White, Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara, Jahmyr Gibbs, Austin Eckler, Corinne Williams. Zach Moss had close to a 20% target share last week with Jerick McKinnon out. Jerick McKinnon is out again, and he gets the Packers. The Packers have not been good. They have not been good against running backs this season. Let me pull up the Pacheco game logs for us on the YouTube Live so we can look through these as I talk through what running backs have done against the Green Bay Packers. And I'll scroll over here to the receiving role, especially 16% target share, 5 targets last week, cut all 5 of them for Isaiah Pacheco. And he gets another good spot here against the Packers. This game, by the way, you're going to see maybe some reports about a snow game here today, this week, week 13, in the game between the Packers and the Chiefs. I don't think it's going to snow at all during the game. It's all going to snow before the game. They're going to be able to clear it off before. We had this happen earlier in the season too, where Weatherman Sam, I will talk about the weather because there's a lot of weather to talk about today. Nothing super concerning, but some stuff moderately concerning. Anyways, we've already seen the snow be overblown once this season. This would be even more overblown because there's a lot less snow than when it was overblown. I think that was the Chiefs game as well earlier this season. And the it didn't impact the game at all. You can clear snow before the game. If it's not snowing heavily during the game, then I really don't care. It is going to be a cold game, though, for the Chiefs and the Packers. Maybe that is good news for Isaiah Pacheco. So going to the Green Bay Packers, how have they done against running backs? They haven't done very well. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, they had 26 total points against them in their last game. Austin Eckler didn't do great. He's been struggling just in general. But the week before that, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, they combined for over 35 points against the Green Bay Packers. So in 2 of their last 3 games, we've seen at least 25 running back points scored against the Green Bay Packers. Isaiah Pacheco getting the vast majority of the usage in the Chiefs' backfield. He's been very efficient, and he's getting targets now. So yeah, Isaiah Pacheco definitely an elite option for sure. Why do you like Javonte today? Yeah, I do really like Javonte today. And part of the reason I like Javonte is we look at his receiving usage in his last game. And I, in general, think the Texans defense is one of the best matchups for the Broncos in a little bit of time here. And we saw Javonte Williams, he had 18 carries. Javonte has been under 4 yards a carry in 4 straight, not very efficient running the ball, but the 70% route percentage, he ran a route on 70% of the dropbacks for the Broncos in their last game. That is an extremely elite number. And I don't think he's going to get 70% again. That was his first time all season running a route that high of a percentage, but he did see 6 targets last week. That's 29% target share. So yeah, I do like Javonte Williams and his ceiling and floor this week for that reason. I do think he finds the end zone today as well. All right, let me pull up the tight end tiers here again. I would definitely play Deebo Samuel over T. Higgins. I'm seeing that one here in the YouTube and TikTok live. I'll put the wide receiver tiers here again. So start Deebo Samuel. Guys, this 49ers-Eagles game, probably the game I'm most excited for personally. Today is 49ers-Eagles, Dolphins, and Commanders game I'm pretty excited for as well. The 49ers are 3-point favorites in Philadelphia in this game. This game has a 47-point over-under, one of the highest over-unders of the week. The Eagles secondary has been crushed this season. And I don't even think the Eagles secondary is that bad. The problem is they're so much worse than the front 7 for the Eagles. The Eagles front 7, their defensive line is top 3 in the NFL, arguably number 1 in the NFL, and their secondary is just a below average secondary. So it's just so obvious to throw against the Eagles, especially when the Eagles offense is scoring points against you at a rapid pace. I'm pretty surprised the 49ers are 3-point favorites in this game, but it is a sign that the 49ers offense is going to be able to score points for sure here. So yeah, definitely got to start Deebo in a lot of spots and definitely over T. Higgins. Pittman or Ayuk, yeah, you got to start both these guys this week, but I got Pittman ahead of Ayuk. I really do like Pittman a lot. Let me actually pull up. Let's do the Ayuk, Deebo, and Pittman comparisons here. I think Pittman needs to be started with how consistent he's been. Arguably, Deebo, Ayuk, they have better matchups today. But yeah, look at this projection here for Michael Pittman, and the floor and ceiling is really high. The ceiling is actually higher for both Ayuk and Deebo, which I think is interesting. But yeah, look, only 11% chance that Michael Pittman goes under 10 points. Is Olave out? Nope, Olave is going to play today. He is in. Must start and must bench. Yeah, let me go to the must starts and must benches. The must starts today for me, Devontae Smith needs to be started. Courtland Sutton needs to be started. I think Brock Purdy, Russell Wilson, both need to be started. Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, Zach Moss, Taysom Hill, Terry McLaurin. That wraps up my must-start list. Must benches. I do not want to start T. Higgins at all in his first game back with Jake Browning. Noah Brown, I don't think you can trust him at all. Devin Singletary, Dameon Pierce, don't want to trust them at all. Kyle Pitts, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff. I don't have a ton of faith in those guys today either. All right, we got a flex question here. Nico or Puka? I think I would go Nico Collins over Puka Nacua. I would go Jaylen Warren over Raheem Mostert. I would play Tua over Brock Purdy, but it's extremely close. Actually, I had Brock Purdy one spot ahead of Tua. It's close, man. We could go back and forth with Tua and Purdy all day. I mean, they're both in really good spots. They're playing the 2 best secondaries to play. They're surrounded by the most impressive, talented supporting cast in the entire league. But yeah, I got Purdy ahead of Tua. The 49ers game, I think, is projected to be higher scoring. It isn't actually. I think we should put Tua ahead of Purdy, honestly. I'm going to change this. The big thing for me with Brock over Tua is just that the floor feels higher for me for Brock than Tua, just because if the Commanders don't keep that game close, then Tua's not going to have to throw enough for fantasy. Go to wide receivers. Yeah, I got you. All right, flex, James Conner or Josh Downs? Yeah, I think this one's James Conner over Josh Downs. So Weatherman Sam needs to show up here, and we will just momentarily as we talk about this one. But it's part of the reason I lean James Conner over Downs. And Downs has a slight edge here in the PPR projections. But the floor is a little bit higher for James Conner, ceiling a tiny bit higher for Josh Downs. That does make sense to me. as well. But Weatherman Sam is here for you guys, and there's some significant weather to be aware of. I'll pull this up on the TikTok live really quickly too, just for us to look through it. I don't think that's going to be readable. Let me pull up the Titan ranking stuff. So I want to ask for that. Okay. There's going to be heavy rain throughout the Chargers and Patriots game. Heavy rain. No significant wind. I don't think it's going to impact the game that much. If anything, I do, though, think it might skew a little bit more run heavy than it would have this Chargers and Patriots game. There's also going to be scattered heavy rain in the Falcons and Jets game and the Cardinals and Steelers game. This Cardinals-Steelers game is the game with the most concerning weather report of the day, because not only is there going to be scattered heavy rain, but with that heavy rain, we're also seeing significant wind projections during the heavy rain. So it's not going to be consistent heavy wind, but there's going to be wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour in this Cardinals and Steelers game. A good reason to expect James Conner usage to be a bit better than expected, and a good reason to expect a little bit down of a passing game for both offenses. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, I think, get a bump from that weather report as well. We're also going to see light rain in the Panthers and Bucks game, likely late in the game. I think this isn't going to be meaningful rain at all. All in told, though, nothing super concerning weather-wise. Start or sit Curtis Samuel. Yeah, I do like the start of Curtis Samuel in general. Best player prop. Yeah, so my free player prop of the day, it is Devontae Smith. We are 20-9 on the free player props this season. I'm going with Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions. Today, he's averaging a 33% target share in his 2 games without Dallas Goedert this season. There's no Dallas Goedert. Today, he had 6 catches, 7 catches his last 2 games. His game's projected to be really, really high scoring as well. And I think this line should be at 5.5. So yeah, going Devontae Smith over 4.5. I think it's like minus 140 odds, which I think is reasonable. Good morning, Sam. Pick one. Pickett or Flacco. Love the app. Yeah, man, I don't want to start either of these guys at all, but it's Pickett over Flacco, man. I refuse. I refuse to put Joe Flacco near my fantasy roster. I don't even want him on my bench, honestly, even in a super flex league. I just think he'll bring the locker room morale down. So yeah, you don't start Joe Flacco. Better matchup here for Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett in the Steelers offense too, coming off like their best game of the season. Yeah, gosh, this is gross, but you got to start Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett has 1 career game with more than 1 passing touchdown. So not a super high ceiling play, but Weatherman Sam, pick wide receiver flex. Cooper Kupp, Nico Rice, or Devon Achane. Yeah, I think you go Nico and Devon Achane here. I think you bench Rice and you bench Cooper Kupp. I would play Terry McLaurin over Deontay Johnson. Brandon, how we doing, man? Good morning. Happy Sunday. We got a fantastic, fantastic Sunday ahead of us, guys. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day. We got a great slate ahead of us. All right, Bijan or Kamara. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so this is a tough call, man. You got to start both these guys in all leagues. Most people will be able to start both these guys. I assume this is a PPR question here, and Bijan, man, he ranks really well here against the Jets. They're looked at back-to-back in Walter's rankings. I think they're back-to-back in my rankings also. They are, and I got Bijan ahead of Kamara. Walter's got Bijan ahead of Kamara, and it's really the matchup here against the Jets versus the matchup for Bijan against Kamara against the Lions. Yep, it's Bijan over Kamara, but it's definitely close. Sam, choose one, Chase or Olave. I think I lean towards Chase over Olave, but it's very close. It's very, very close. Herbert or Stroud. I think I have Stroud ahead of Herbert. QB tier list. Yeah, I got you with the QB tier list. T. Higgins or Jaden Reed? Yeah, I would go Jaden Reed over T. Higgins. I do not want to start T. Higgins at all his first game back. I would play Achane. I think I would play Achane over A.J. Dillon. Let me see this one. Oh, God, they're actually back-to-back here in my rankings. No Aaron Jones today. It's fine to go Dillon over Achane. Achane definitely has a higher ceiling than Dillon. Dillon's got the higher floor, though, with no Aaron Jones. Dillon will touch the ball more than Achane today, almost definitely. Downs or Dotson? That one I feel like is actually really close too. Let me do this comparison. Downs versus Dotson. It's Downs. Another one where I feel like the ceiling is probably higher for Downs. I mean, higher for Dotson. Yeah, it is. But the floor is definitely better for Downs. I'd go Josh Downs over Dotson. Dotson has just such high bust potential every given week. Howell or Russ? Yeah, it's Russ. Howell and Russ actually have in the exact same tier. And I have Howell 1 spot ahead of Russ. I think Howell is actually the last quarterback I would start over Russ. They actually projected the exact same amount of points in the Walter Picks app, 17.5 points. The only QBs I'm playing over Russ today: Howell, Herbert, Stroud, Mahomes, Purdy, Tua, Hurts. That's it. Tight end tier list. Yeah, I got you the tight end tier list. I think the tight end list is honestly the most straightforward list of the day, where Kelsey's in his own tier, then it's Kittle in his own tier, then it's McBride, Laporta, and Njoku, Ingram. And that tier 3, honestly, we could argue all day long which tight end should be in which order. I kind of like right now, I kind of like Evan Ingram, honestly, the most of all those guys. Then Laporta, then McBride, then Njoku. And then Taysom Hill leads off the top of tier 4 for me among tight ends. All right. Hey, Sam. Full PPR. Pick 2, Collins, Watson, Puka, and Dillon, or Brian Robinson. Yeah, so I'm playing Collins over Wilson and Puka. And I think I'm playing Dillon over B-Rob. Let's see this one. I don't feel great about Brian Robinson today. Yeah, it's Dillon. I would start Dillon and Collins here. I would start McLaurin over Dillon, though. And over Deontay Johnson. Yeah, so McBride versus Evan Ingram. Honestly, I think it is Evan Ingram over McBride. The matchups here are not comparable. They're just not comparable. Like the usage for McBride has been better even than Evan Ingram, but the usage for Evan Ingram has been pretty elite too. And the matchup is when you consider the matchups here, I really think the answer is Evan Ingram. Walter's going to like McBride projection-wise a little bit better. I'll put my tight end rankings here again, and I think I'm actually going to move these around a bit because I would go with Evan Ingram, I think at 3, Laporta at 4, and then McBride at 5. Just move those around a bit. But yeah, let's pull this one up because Evan Ingram plays the 2nd worst defense against tight ends, while McBride plays the 6th best defense against tight ends. And we have not seen many tight ends succeed against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Can't trust Amari Cooper with Flacco. No, absolutely not. Devontae Parker or Jahan Dotson? Yeah, I would go Jahan Dotson over Devontae Parker. Pull the wide receiver tiers here. T-Law or Herb? Yeah, you got to go Herb over T-Law. T-Law's been balling, though, man. He definitely is a decent option this week. So I'll pull up the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they've done against tight ends. This is my main reason for being concerned about McBride today. The last tight end we saw do well against the Pittsburgh Steelers was back in week 8, and it was Evan Ingram, who actually had the best game of the season against the Steelers at the tight end position. And Njoku had over 12 points. We saw Andrews and Schultz go right around 12 points. But we saw Kittle go under 5. We saw Njoku go under 7. We have not seen a big game yet against the Steelers. Not a single game over 17 points against the Steelers. And then you look at the Bengals, and the Bengals have been crushed, and I mean crushed, by tight ends. Just last week, they let up 20 points to Pat Freiermuth. A couple weeks before that, Kittle dropped 25 points against them. Another week, we saw Dalton Kincaid of 16 points. Dalton Schultz had 12 points. This is all within the last month. So, yeah, I think you got to go Evan Ingram over Trey McBride. And I think Evan Ingram finds the end zone for the first time this season, honestly, this week on Monday night. What's up, Sam? Warren, Hall, Mixon, pick 2, full PPR. Yeah, I like Warren, I think, more than Hall and Mixon. Let's do this comparison, though. All 3 of these running backs are in play for sure. Singletary or Achane, and Brevin Jordan or Juwan Johnson. I like Brevin Jordan more than Juwan Johnson. I actually made that change in one of my fantasy leagues this morning. And then Singletary versus Achane, I like Achane more than Singletary. I would go with Achane over Singletary. All right, Warren, thanks for doing the TikTok live subscription as well in the TikTok live. All right, Hall, and then we got Joe Mixon. Looks like Mixon's going to be the odd man out here. And yeah, I do think that makes sense. Mixon does have kind of the hardest matchup here too. So yeah, it's Warren, it's Breece Hall. I like Warren honestly a little bit more than Breece this week too. But yeah, you got to bench Joe Mixon in that one. Jerome Ford or DeAndre Hopkins at flex? Yeah, I would go DeAndre Hopkins. Any chance we bench Kupp this week? Yeah, there's definitely a chance. Do the running back tiers list. Yeah, I got you with the running back tiers list. Thoughts on Downs? Yeah, he's a high floor, but not a super high ceiling play in my opinion. Love or Minshew? I think I do have Love ahead of Minshew. Pulled the QB rankings here again. And yeah, I've Love one spot ahead of Minshew, actually closer than I expected, Billy. This is not an easy decision here between Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, and Zach Moss. But you got to bench Moss here. You got to play Kamara and Eckler. Stroud or Lawrence? Yeah, it's Stroud over Lawrence. Moss, Ridley, Dell, pick 2. Yeah, it's Moss and Dell. It's Moss and Dell over Ridley. I just have an odd feeling the week I bench Cooper Kupp, he's going to go off. Yeah, we always all have that odd feeling, especially with guys like Cooper Kupp. DraftKings, good sir. Yes, let me pull my DraftKings lineup. I'm doing a wacky DraftKings lineup this week where I'm triple stacking. I'm triple stacking with Brock Purdy. I'm going Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk of the Bazooka, and George Kittle, and running it back with Devontae Smith. I think if you're going to tweak this DraftKings lineup, you tweak one of those guys. You take out one of these 49ers players, and you probably replace Devontae Parker here. But I think everybody, you're going to see over half of lineups on DraftKings today have Zach Moss with how they are pricing Zach Moss on DraftKings today. Achane, Reed, or Kupp. Yeah, it's Achane. Thielen or Ridley. Let me pull up the wide receiver tiers here again. I think they're in the same tier even for me this week. No, it's Ridley. It's Ridley over Thielen. How do you feel about Russell Wilson? I feel pretty good about Russell Wilson, honestly. I think that the Broncos passing offense, the Broncos offense in general, underrated going into this game. Excuse me. I really think they're underrated going into this game because I'll pull up the Russell Wilson game logs here on YouTube. But because they have played pretty good defenses over the last six, 7 games, and they finally get a stretch here of bad defenses. And I do count the Texans as a bad defense. The Texans have allowed 2 total touchdowns, if you count passing and rushing touchdowns, to quarterbacks. I think their last 4 games straight. We saw 25 points, fantasy points from Trevor Lawrence. Last week, we saw Kyler Murray score 22 points against the Texans. The week before that, we saw Joe Burrow go for 22 points. RIP Joe Burrow the week before that. So 3 straight games of at least 20 points against the Texans. All those QBs did have at least 2 total touchdowns. Baker Mayfield threw 2 touchdowns. He had 19 points as well. We have not really seen a bad game from quarterbacks against the Texans since week 4 when Kenny Pickett only had 4 points. And Russell Wilson absolutely is better than Kenny Pickett. Bryce Young even had one of his better games, 235 yards, 15 PPR points against the Texans. So yeah, I do like Russell Wilson today for sure. Yo, Sam, good morning. Good morning to you as well. Zach, start 1, Rice, Hollywood, Reed. Also, do we have a player prop? Yeah, I got you the player prop for sure. In just a second, we got Rashee Rice, Hollywood, and Reed. Yeah, I think this one is between Hollywood and Rice. Let's do this one comparison really quick, though. We got Hollywood Brown. It's going to be Marquise, I think, here. And then we got Reed. Actually ranked really close here, too. All these guys are actually ranked way closer together than I expected. Jaden Reed actually projects the best here. Wow. It is Hollywood Brown with the best matchup on paper. Also, though, worth calling out, this game does have a little bit of a concerning weather report. Significant scattered rain showers. And with those rain showers can come wind gusts over 30 miles an hour. So a little bit of concern there for Marquise. Maybe is a good reason to go with Jaden Reed here. Rashee Rice is definitely in play in this one, too, though. I think the answer here is Jaden Reed. I think I'd go Jaden Reed. Let's go Brandon Ayuk. And I got the player prop for us. It is Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions. This line is set a reception too low, and they're pressing it around minus 140 as per the start of this live stream. Walter has Devontae Smith ranked wide receiver 6 this week. I got him in my top 10 wide receiver rankings. There's no Dallas Goedert again this week. He has had a 38% target share and a 29% target share in his 2 games without Dallas Goedert. This is one of the highest projected scoring games of the week. And he's hit this line in 3 of his last 4 games. He's hit the line in 4 of his last 6 games. So yeah, I like Devontae Smith a lot, over 4.5 receptions. I think he goes at least 5 catches today. I think he can have a huge day, and I'm definitely playing Devontae Smith over Devin Singletary, for example. Trey McBride or Mixon to flex. Definitely go Mixon over Trey McBride. Do not start 2 tight ends if you don't need to start 2 tight ends. Achane or Christian Kirk. I think I would lean Christian Kirk. This is Isaac. There's no CeeDee Lamb on this tier list because this is the tier list for the rest of the week, this week for fantasy football. So none of the players not playing today or tomorrow are on this list. Trevor Lawrence or Russell Wilson. Yes, Russ over Trevor Lawrence for me. I do really like the matchup for Russ today against the Houston Texans. We were just talking about it, but we have not really seen a bad quarterback performance fantasy-wise against the Houston Texans. I do think Rashee Rice was on the injury report, but I do not think he is expected to miss this week. All right. Trey McBride previously indicated he's playing today. I'll be good to go, he said. So Trey McBride is playing. There is some weather to be aware of. So the Chargers and Pats game, let me pull this up again on the YouTube Live. Weatherman Sam is here for you guys. There is a little bit of weather to call out today that you are going to notice on your TV screens when you're watching the game. So we got heavy rain in the Chargers and Patriots game pretty much throughout the entire game. There's not going to be significant wind, but you got to expect a little bit more run-heavy game scripts, I think, from the Chargers and Patriots. We also have significant rain projection in the Falcons and Jets game. But it looks like it's going to clear out a little bit before the game. So I think as the game goes on, this Jets and Falcons game will be less and less impacted by the rain, but there will be significant rain. Again, no significant wind in that one. I'd say the most concerning weather report today, though, is actually the Cardinals and the Steelers game in Pittsburgh. There's a chance for scattered rain showers. So some points of the game, there's going to be no rain. Other points of the game, it's going to be absolutely downpouring. And apparently when it's downpouring, there's going to be winds coming with that rain that could gust up to over 30 miles an hour. So you can't throw in that wind. So I'm pretty concerned for the Steelers and Cardinals passing attacks at moments in this game, but it's not going to be like a consistent struggle throughout the whole game, just pockets of struggle. So worth all calling out for sure. There's also going to be some light rain in the Panthers and Bucs game. All right, good morning, Sam. Good morning to you as well. Start 2 full PPR. Gibbs, Mostert, Achane. Yeah, it's Gibbs, it's Mostert over Achane. And then start 2 full PPR again. Dell, Thielen, Olave. Yeah, this one is Dell and Olave over Adam Thielen. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to everybody in this live stream. Shout out to everybody here. Seriously, guys, I appreciate you all so much. Make sure if you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't downloaded the Walter Picks app yet, it's up on the screen right now. Don't know what you're waiting for? Download it. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. I do appreciate it. Make sure you also download the Walter Picks app. It's the best way you could possibly support me in the entire Walter Picks brand, and it's going to help you with fantasy and with betting. Have a chance at first place this week. Let's go. Need a flex. Higgins, Josh Downs, Noah Brown, Drake London, full PPR. Yeah, this one's Josh Downs. I think it's Josh Downs. Let me pull up the running back. So the wide receiver list here. I don't think you can start T. Higgins. I don't think you can start Noah Brown. Drake London is startable. Yeah, I think the answer here is Josh Downs. Josh Downs versus Drake London is close. I'd argue Downs is a little bit safer than Drake London. Drake London gets a tough matchup here against the Jets. The Jets have been the number 1 defense. Thanks for the gift, Zach, in the TikTok live. Tank or Chase? Yeah, it's Chase for me over Tank. Breeze, Swift, Achane, Warren. Yeah, it's Warren. And it's Breeze and it's Swift. I'd bench Achane. I'd play Reed over Downs, though, if I had to choose between those two. And yeah, the floor is definitely higher for Downs. It's not like he doesn't have a ceiling, too. I would go Downs over London. Tight end rankings. Yeah, I got you with the tight end rankings. McLaurin or Puka? Yeah, this is a tough one for me, man. The Rams receivers, I feel like, are some of the toughest decisions of fantasy today because Puka Nacua, I want to start. He's been extremely consistent. He doesn't have a game. Puka Nacua does not have a game under 7 targets this entire season. One of the very few receivers you can say that about. But he gets the Browns today, and the Browns are the second best defense against receivers this season. I would argue they might even be the best defense against receivers. And then McLaurin gets a pretty interesting spot in the highest projected scoring game of the week against the Dolphins. Oh, gosh. I mean, it's a really tough call here. I would not knock you at all for going McLaurin. I think I have Puka ahead of him in my tier list too. I don't actually. It's McLaurin. Go with McLaurin. I would disagree with Walter on this one. I'll pull up my wide receiver rankings here too. I think I have McLaurin over Puka here too. I'd go with McLaurin. I think the similar floors, higher ceiling this week for Terry McLaurin. It's a close one. Can you give me a lock parlay? I don't know if there's such a thing of a lock and parlay. Like these two things do not go together. My favorite upsets of the day, though, if you want to try to get some high upside parlays going today, I think the Patriots can legitimately beat the Chargers today. Going to be heavy rain in this game. The first game we've seen Bailey Zappi actually get to prepare against the Chargers. I think the coaching mismatch is one of the biggest of the week in this game. I do think the Steelers beat the Cardinals today as well. Another upset I like is the Broncos over the Texans. So Broncos, Pats, Steelers, parlay those three together, you're probably looking at some pretty good odds. But I would not say it is a lock because there's no such thing as a locked-in parlay. But what you should also do is take the Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions line. That is as close to a lock as it gets. All right, Tank Dell, Garrett Wilson, Cortland Sutton, Devon, Achane, Mostert, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back here. Yeah, so the receiver you got to bench here is Garrett Wilson. And then 1 running back is Mostert over Achane. Can you also explain Stroud over Pat? Yeah, so let me pull this up here. I didn't feel good about this one. And this felt not quite as bad as the Cooper Kupp ranking, which also just felt wrong. But Stroud versus Patrick Mahomes in my rankings. It felt very strange. Mahomes, guys, he just hasn't been that great for fantasy football. Look at these stats. Stroud beats Mahomes in every single stat so far this season. He's averaging more points per game. He's averaging more yards per game. He's averaging more touchdowns per game. And he gets a better matchup today too than Patrick Mahomes gets against the Packers. So yeah, I mean, you guys start Stroud and look at the numbers here from Mahomes, and he's been like kind of consistent, at least like going over 15 points in most of his games. But we haven't seen any huge game other than one where he got to play the Chargers, and he's not playing the Chargers today. That's Bailey Zappi getting the Chargers today. So yeah, that's why I'm going Stroud over Mahomes. Stroud's just has straight up been better than Mahomes. Dell or Nico, I like Dell a little bit more than Nico. Dell or Devonta, yeah, you got to go Devonta Smith over Dell. Let me pull up the tight end tiers. Sorry, I'm seeing running back tier list being requested here in the TikTok live. Thanks for the gifts in the TikTok live, Zach. I do appreciate you a ton. Any tight end help? Yeah, so my favorite sleeper tight end is Brevin Jordan today. There's no Dalton Schultz in the lineup today. I think Brevin Jordan's going to see a near every down role, and the Broncos have been crushed by tight ends this season. Brevin Jordan also coming off one of his better games of the season. He had, just kidding. It was one of his better games. So he only had one catch, 9 yards for Brevin Jordan. He has one game this season where he had over 5 PPR points. But yeah, I do think he's going to slide into this every down tight end role for the Texans, which is definitely an interesting role to be in. Would you start Downs? Yeah, Downs can definitely be started. Puka or Najee? I would go Najee over Puka. Here's my QB tier list for those looking for that. Sam, start 3, White, Dell, Gibbs, or Rice PPR. Yes, you got to start White, you got to start Gibbs, 100%. And then you got to start Dell over Rice. Even though I'm scared, I am scared. I'm straight up scared about the matchup here for against the Broncos for the Texans receivers. We have not seen a wide receiver go over 13 PPR points since week 4 against the Denver Broncos. I think one of Tank Dell or Nico Collins will do that today, but probably not both. Probably not both today against the Denver Broncos. But yeah, I'm still playing him over Rashee Rice. Start Mike Evans or Jamar Chase. That one's pretty close. I think I do have Chase, though, over Evans. Go back to the running back list here. Freiermuth, Taysom, or Ferguson? You probably drop Taysom there. I prefer Taysom over Freiermuth today, but I think I prefer Freiermuth over Taysom rest of the season. Start 2 PPR. Godwin, Achane, Noah Brown, Dortch, or Jameson Williams. Side note, who do you think gets snubbed in the college football playoffs? Yeah, I've seen a lot of chatter about that. I don't think Georgia is going to be the one that gets snubbed from my limited knowledge of the situation. I think Alabama honestly has a decent chance to get snubbed. All right, Godwin, Achane, Noah Brown, Dortch, Jameson Williams. It's Achane here, and it's Godwin. Yeah, I think it's Godwin, Achane, bench Noah Brown, bench Dortch, bench Jameson Williams. Hey, Sam. Should I keep stashing T.J. Spears or drop for Dobbs/Samuel? Yeah, that's an interesting one here. I have really liked the T.J. Spears stash. It has not come to fruition really at all yet. Derrick Henry leads the NFL in touches over the last 3 years. And the Titans are going to be eliminated from playoff contention very shortly if they are not already. Like, what is the incentive here for the Titans to continue to give significant workload to Derrick Henry? I mean, there's the opposite of incentive. There's an incentive for them to rest Derrick Henry down the stretch. We just haven't seen it yet. And Romeo Doubs, Curtis Samuel have both been decent. I think I probably would hold on to T.J. Spears, though, just because elite running backs are harder to find. And T.J. Spears is one of the highest upside handcuffs still in fantasy, in my opinion. Achane or Wilson at flex? Yeah, I think I would go Achane here. Moss, Stevenson, Bijan, Gibbs. Yeah, you got to bench Stevenson here. Play Zach Moss over Stevenson. Play Bijan Robinson over Stevenson. Play Jahmyr Gibbs over Stevenson. Javonte or Rice? Definitely Javonte here over Rashee Rice. I'm going to restart TikTok Live, having some more lag on my end, but we'll be back in a second there. All right. Let's go. Game by game here for a second. Why are you down on the Texans wide receivers against Denver, but not Stroud? Yeah. It's a weird situation here. Let me pull up the QB rankings here against the Broncos. And honestly, maybe I should be lower on Stroud than I am. The last 4 quarterbacks looking at this right now, the last 4 quarterbacks against the Denver Broncos, 2 of them were Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen had 16 points against the Broncos. He had 2 interceptions and I think a couple of fumbles too. He had 2 interceptions and a fumble in that game. Mahomes only had 7 points against the Broncos. He didn't even score a touchdown in that game. He fumbled and he had 2 interceptions. A total of 6 turnovers between Josh Allen and Mahomes against the Broncos in their last 4 games. Josh Dobbs had the best game against them in the last 4. He had 18 points. It's tough. Something's got to give, in this matchup with how good Stroud has been. But honestly, looking at these numbers, I think I probably should just be a little bit lower on Stroud than I am. Because, again, I'm nervous about these receivers in general. I think I would play – I'm going to bump Stroud down just a bit here in the rankings to adjust and account for this. But, yeah, we just have not seen a big game against the Broncos secondary in quite some time. So, yeah, I am nervous about Stroud as well, the more I think about this. McBride or Freiermuth? Yeah, I would go McBride over Freiermuth. Mahomes or Stroud? Yeah, I'm going Mahomes over Stroud as we talk about that out loud here. We have not seen very good passing days against the Denver Broncos in quite some time. Mahomes and Josh Allen combined for 6 turnovers against the Denver Broncos in their last 4 games. Breece Hall, Jamar Chase, Tank Dell, pick 2, half PPR. It's Jamar Chase. And I think it's Tank Dell still over Breece Hall. All right, we got a free player prop of the day question. And the free player prop of the day, guys, we have hit 20 of these and lost 9 of them this season. Insane percentage. 75% hit rate so far this season. I'm going Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions. This is screenshots from the Walter Picks app. Check it out in the bio if you haven't yet. It does help me out a lot. But Devontae Smith has gone over this in 2 straight games. Both those games happen to have been without Dallas Goedert. We got no Dallas Goedert in the lineup again. Today, Devontae Smith having a 33% target share in his last 2 without Dallas Goedert. They're setting this line at 4.5. It really should be at 5.5. I would argue maybe even should be at 6.5 for Devontae Smith today. He's going over this in what I think will be a shootout game, a game I'm very excited for this week. All right, let me pull up the wide receiver tiers here on the TikTok Live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on TikTok. Guys, shout out to everybody in this live stream. We're going to talk about every single player. We're going to get to every single start sit. And if I don't, the best place to go is the Walter Picks app where you get unlimited free start sit comparisons and unlimited betting advice too in the Walter Picks app. It's free. And if you use code SAM when you sign up, you'll also get free access to a 7-day trial for all the premium features in the Walter Picks app. Shout out to everybody that's tried it out already. Downs, Hopkins, or Kupp. Really scared for Kupp. Yeah, I'm terrified for Kupp too. I'm terrified for Kupp and Puka Nacua today against the Browns' elite secondary. We have not seen very many good wide receiver days against the Cleveland Browns. You got to think it's going to be a pretty big Kyren Williams day here against this Browns defense. The last good wide receiver game we've seen against the Browns came back in week 8 where Tyler Lockett had 22. But we saw Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy do nothing against them. Last week, Zay Flowers, Odell got shut down. Marquise Brown got shut down. We've seen Michael Pittman not do much against them. Jamar Chase only had 9 points back in week 1. So, yeah, I'm scared for him too. I still think I would go Hopkins over Kupp and Downs over Kupp as well, I think. Let's do this comparison, though. I got my wide receiver tiers up actually right here. And yeah, I would play Hopkins. I don't think I'd play Downs though. I don't even know if Downs made it on my list here, which he definitely should have on TikTok. Let me do this comparison quick. Downs, Hopkins, and Kupp. And I think it's Downs and Hopkins. Yeah, it's Downs and Hopkins. I'm playing Downs and Hopkins over Kupp. Man, RIP Kupp. I really hope we see him at full strength, but he just did not look at full health last game. Why Howell over T-Law? Yeah, so we do this comparison, guys. Sam Howell has crushed Trevor Lawrence in basically every single stat this season. Sam Howell's in the game that's projected to have the highest scoring game of the week. Sam Howell has been a very good fantasy football quarterback, and I get it. Trevor Lawrence is on a heater. Trevor Lawrence back-to-back games of 25-plus fantasy points. Like, we've seen Trevor Lawrence ball out his last couple of games, and he's got a decent matchup this week too, a better matchup even than Sam Howell has. But then we compare the stats so far this year. Sam Howell averaging more points per game than Trevor Lawrence. Sam Howell averaging more yards per game than Trevor Lawrence. Sam Howell averaging more touchdowns per game than Trevor Lawrence. He's crushing him in every stat. He's a better rushing quarterback too. And again, this Dolphins-Commanders game, if the Commanders keep this close, Sam Howell, please keep this game close. They're 8.5-point underdogs. If they can keep this game close to that spread, I think we could legitimately see the Dolphins break records passing today against the worst secondary in the NFL. I think one of the worst secondaries in quite some time. This is a horrible matchup here for the Commanders defensively. But Yeah, I like Sam Howell a little bit more than Trevor Lawrence. They're both decent options, though, for sure. Would you start Downs at flex over Achane or Curtis Samuel? No, I would not start him over Achane. Over Curtis Samuel, I think is closer. But I like Curtis Samuel for the same reason as I was mentioning about Sam Howell. Like, I do think there's a story we can tell here of this game being just out of control scoring-wise. Can you change the tier list? Yeah, I got you. I got to running back tiers. We'll go to wide receiver tiers list next, and then we'll get to the tight ends as well. Trey Pacheco for Cooper Kupp. No, I would not do that. Running backs, please. I got the running backs up. Marquise or Johnson. So this Cardinals-Steelers game, guys, has some concerning weather that you got to be aware of. There's going to be significant heavy rain, scattered heavy rain. So it's not going to be throughout the whole game, but scattered heavy rain throughout the Cardinals and Steelers game. And with that heavy rain and even more concerning, wind is going to come with that rain. Wind gusts over 30 miles an hour in the Cardinals-Steelers game. That's not good for the passing offenses. It is good probably for the rushing offenses, though. Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, James Conner, I think all get a little bit of a boost. I do really like Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris today, but I'm not starting them over Devontae Smith. Seeing that question in the TikTok Live. Start Devontae Smith, guys. There's no Dallas Goedert again. Devontae Smith averaging a 33% target share in games without Dallas Goedert. This game is projected to be really high scoring too against the 49ers. Puka or Achane? Yeah, I'm going Achane over Puka. Hall or Ford? Also Chase or Dell? Yeah, it's Chase over Dell, man. It's Chase over Dell in a tough matchup against the Broncos. I am scared for CJ Stroud and the Texans passing options today. I think at least one of Tank and Nico will do well. But, guys, we have not seen a receiver go over 13 PPR points against the Denver Broncos since week 4 when DJ Moore did it. And that was an entirely different Denver Broncos defense. So I'm going Chase over Dell. And then I think I would go Hall over Ford as well. I am playing Mahomes over Stroud for that reason as well. Puka or Kupp? Yeah, you got Puka over Kupp. I played Mostert over Achane. Chris, man, thanks for the gifts in the TikTok Live. King Henry or Devin Singletary? First King Henry question I've seen today. And we are 2 hours into this live stream. Yeah, I would go King Henry over Devin Singletary. I think I'd play King Henry over Christian Kirk and Rice as well. Swift, Achane, Mostert. Let's do this one, actually. I think it's between Mostert and Swift is close. I think I probably would go Mostert over Swift. Kind of a tough matchup here for Swift against the 49ers. Their defense has been good against running backs. Third best against running backs, the 49ers, so far this season. Good news for Swift is he can catch passes also. But yeah, it's Mostert. It's Mostert over Swift. I'd probably go Achane over Swift as well, but I would go Mostert over Achane. Evan Ingram or Taysom Hill? It's Evan Ingram over Taysom Hill for sure. The only tight ends I'm starting over Evan Ingram are George Kittle and Travis Kelce. Then it's Evan Ingram for me. Then it's Trey McBride. Then it's Sam Laporta. Then it's Trey McBride. And then Taysom Hill's in a different tier. Let me go to the tight end tier list here real quick for you. But yeah, I do like Evan Ingram a lot against the Bengals. The Bengals have been horrible against tight ends this season. Jaylen Warren versus David Montgomery question here in the YouTube Live. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, by the way, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. If you're watching live on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out way more than you guys realize. It takes like 2 seconds. Is Jaden Reed going to play today? It does sound like Jaden Reed is going to play today, yes. And he is a decent option with how he's been playing. All right, we got Jaylen Warren versus David Montgomery. It is David Montgomery just barely here over Jaylen Warren. I like both them a lot this week. Man, the matchup here for the Steelers running backs. I'm telling you guys that the Steelers running backs have a really high floor and high ceiling today. Combined, they're going to go over 30 points. The running back performances we've seen against the Arizona Cardinals, and then you add in the weather component of significant heavy rain, scattered heavy winds in this Cardinals-Steelers game, and you look at the running back performances last week, we saw a 40 bomb, 40 points from Corinne Williams. And not only did Corinne Williams score 40 points, but Royce Freeman also had 14 points. So a total of 50 points against the Arizona Cardinals from running backs last week. The week before that, we saw a total of over 20 points against the Arizona Cardinals from the Houston Texans with Devin Singletary. The week before that, Tyler Algier, Bijan went over 20 points. The week before that, we saw Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford go over 20 points. The week before that, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill had 40 points. So yeah, I do really like Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. I think Devin Singletary projects a bit better than Jaylen Warren, but I would not knock you for going Jaylen Warren over Montgomery at all, especially in a PPR league. All right, we got a must-win week. Yeah, Julian, we're in some must-win situations here at this point in the fantasy season. 2 weeks left in most leagues in the regular season. We got to be getting these dubs at this point of the year. There's just no way around it. Rashee Rice, Deontay Johnson, Puka Nacua, pick 2. Yeah, I think this one's Rice and Puka. I think I would play Puka over Deontay. I think I would play Rashee Rice over Deontay. Again, especially considering the weather report in that game. A.T. Perry or Devontae Parker? I'm cooked. Yeah, I would go Parker, I think, over A.T. Perry. Significant rains projected in this Patriots-Chargers game, too. But the Chargers secondary has been horrible, and there's no Demario Douglas for the Pats today. You got to think the Patriots offense has a little bit more life. I actually am kind of bullish on the Patriots beating the Chargers, upsetting the Chargers. They're 4.5 or 5.5 point underdogs against the Chargers at home. But this is the first game all season we're seeing Bailey Zappi get a real chance to prepare all week as the starter. And he gets one of the worst secondaries in the league to do it against. I think Devontae Parker can benefit from that. I'm playing him over A.T. Perry. Must win, Sutton or Pittman. Do not bench Michael Pittman this week. Do not do it. Let me go with the wide receiver tiers again here. But there's very, very, very little amount of wide receivers that I want to be starting over Michael Pittman this week. And I think I could argue Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, maybe even Ayuk over Pittman. I'm not going to do that, though. I'm going to start Pittman over Waddle. I'm going to start Pittman over Ayuk. I think I would start probably Devontae over Pittman. And then just the elite tier one guys like Tyreek, Keenan, A.J. Brown, and Amon-Ra. Like I'm starting those guys over Pittman, but that's it. Sam Howell is a good option today for sure. I'm starting him over Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, or Trevor Lawrence. Yes, let me go to QB tiers here again on the TikTok live. I got Trevor Lawrence behind Justin Herbert in the rankings. Today, I would go Justin Herbert. Thank you. I got you. Kupp or Cooper. Yeah, I think I would go Amari Cooper over Cooper Kupp. Joe Flacco, man, I got no faith in Joe Flacco, but I got no faith in the Rams passing attack really today either. I would start Puka, though, still over Rashee Rice. I would start Mostert over Achane. Purdy or Stroud. I got Purdy ranked really high today, guys. I got him as my QB3. Both Brock Purdy and Tua are in my tier 1 this week. I think they're both extremely elite options. Dell or Warren? I'm going Warren over Dell today. I'm nervous about the Texans passing attack today. I am not nervous about the Steelers backfield today, though, at all. Good morning, Sam. If I win, I clinch playoffs. Andrew, let's go. This is what we've been grinding all season for, is to get the playoff clinch, to give yourself a shot. At the end of the day, that's all you're aiming for in fantasy football, is a playoff spot. And then once you're in the playoff spot, you got to give yourself the best chance to actually win. But you got no chance to win if you're not in the playoffs. And so it's a huge victory just to get a ticket to actually have a chance. All right, Singletary, McLaurin, or Downs at flex. Yeah, so this one's McLaurin, man. You got to go McLaurin over Singletary. You got to go McLaurin over Downs, especially if this is a PPR league, Andrew, which I assume it is because you didn't say the scoring settings. But yeah, McLaurin over Downs, McLaurin over Singletary. This Commanders-Dolphins game could get out of hand scoring-wise. I think this game has some significant potential to be a very memorable game because we got a horrible matchup for the Commanders defense here. The Commanders, I think, have the worst secondary in the NFL, especially since they traded their 2 best pass rushers. And now they're playing a Dolphins offense, which their only weakness of the Dolphins offense is when you get pressure on Tua, which the Commanders cannot do in this game. And that's kind of good news for McLaurin because they're going to have to throw a lot on the Commander side. I would go McLaurin here. And then since Goddard is out and Kincaid is on bye, do I start Higbee, Brevin Jordan, Juwan Johnson, Okonkwo, or Hunter Henry? Yeah, so honestly, Brevin Jordan is a very interesting one here. I think Brevin Jordan does have some legs today to stand on in terms of his fantasy usage. I'm starting him in one of my leagues. I think that it's between – I honestly think Hunter Henry has some potential here too. And if we're being honest here, Andrew, like we're rolling the dice here with any of these guys. Let's see how Walter ranks these tight ends. I'll put my tight end list here too again. I actually have my tight end list already up on TikTok. Let's see here. I got Brevin Jordan ranked ahead of Henry. I got Brevin Jordan ranked ahead of Juwan Johnson. I got Brevin Jordan ranked ahead of Chig. And you can't start Tyler Higbee at all, I don't think, this week. Walter's got Henry ahead of Brevin Jordan. But let me tell you why I'm going Brevin Jordan over some of these guys. And I disagree with Walter. I think Juwan Johnson's definitely in play, and Hunter Henry's in play. I would boil it down to these 3 guys. But look at the matchup here for Brevin Jordan. Guys, the Broncos have been so bad against tight ends this season. And they've been pretty good otherwise, defensively. David Njoku had 12 points. Tight ends from the Browns combined for 16 points against the Denver Broncos last week. The week before that, 23 points combined from the Vikings tight ends against the Broncos. The week before that, Dalton Kincaid had 16 points. The week before that, the Chiefs tight ends, they combined for 16 points. Basically, tight ends have scored at least 16 points against the Broncos in almost every game this entire season. So yeah, I'm rolling the dice with Brevin Jordan here. I think there's a real argument for Juwan and Henry. But yeah, I'm going Brevin Jordan personally. Andrew, good luck to you in that decision. Ingram or Hill? Yeah, I'm going Evan Ingram over Taysom Hill pretty easily. I do like Taysom Hill, though, as an upside play at tight end this week. I need to win this week to even have a chance at the playoffs. Who do I start? Najee, Montgomery, or Thielen? Thanks. Yeah, so I'm assuming this is a PPR league. I like Najee a lot. I think Montgomery probably going to project a bit better than Najee. Najee, I like a lot because of the matchup and because of the weather report in that game. Going to be windy and rainy in this game throughout. There's going to be intermittent. It's not going to be like consistent throughout the game, but there is going to be gusts of wind and gusts of heavy rain. But yeah, still Montgomery here against the Saints. You got to go Montgomery with how high of a touchdown ceiling he has. I don't know if I'm tripping, but I don't think you answered this. Tank Dell or Devin Singletary? Thanks, Sam. Love the streams. Wade, you're not tripping, man. I definitely didn't answer this one. It's Tank Dell. You got to play Tank Dell over Devin Singletary for sure. RB list. Yeah, I got you with the RB list. It's Tank Dell over Devin Singletary pretty easily. The ceiling is just not comparable, especially with Dameon Pierce back. ETN, Rachaad White, Moss, standard scoring pick 2, please. Yeah, it's the last 2 here. Bench ETN, start Rachaad White, start Zach Moss. It's a little bit less exciting here, a little bit easier of a decision, I think. A little less easy of a decision, I think, in non-PPR than full PPR, but still Rachaad White, Zach Moss, significantly better options this week than Travis Etienne. Guys, Travis Etienne's been struggling. He's been struggling pretty bad. We have not seen a big game from Etienne since week 8, since before the bye. Look at these yards per carry numbers. Travis Etienne has been under 4 yards a carry every single game since week 5. That's 6 straight games, under 4 yards a carry for Travis Etienne. And it's shown in his fantasy performances, especially over his last 3. Yeah, so Etienne's not on the same tier list for me as Rachaad White and as Zach Moss, especially in PPR leagues. Full PPR, choose one wide receiver and a flex. Watson, Samuels, Dobbs, Mixon, Achane, Taysom, or Frymouth. So I'm going Taysom over Frymouth. And I'm playing Curtis Samuel. And I think Achane here. Choose a wide receiver and flex. Yeah, I think I'll go Curtis Samuel and Achane over Christian Watson and Dobbs. Hey, Sam, playoffs on the line. Pick 2, Chase, Wilson, Najee, and Achane. Standard scoring. Yeah, I think you go Chase and Najee here in standard scoring. I would go Chase and Najee Harris here over Garrett Wilson and over Devon Achane. It's a little scary of a spot to start Devon Achane. I do not think Devon Achane has a real path to 15-plus touches in this game with how his initial return back from his injury went. He can still have a big game. We've seen it already this season where he gets like between 10 and 15 touches and has a huge game, but I'm not willing to bet on that this week in his first game back. I think we see right around 10 touches for him today, and it does give him a kind of scary floor. Should I drop Jeff Wilson to stash Noah Brown or Dearness Johnson? Yeah, I would drop Jeff Wilson for Dearness Johnson for sure. I think Dearness Johnson is one of the higher upside stashes right now. Yeah, and I would do this right now, Jonathan, for sure. Collins, Thielen, Sutton, PPR, and then pick Achane or Mixon, PPR. Yeah, this one's Sutton. I think it's Sutton over Collins. Let me pull up my wide receiver tier list here again on the TikTok live. Oh, God, I got Nico one spot ahead of Sutton. I got them both ahead of Thielen. And then I would play Achane over Mixon. Let's do this Collins and Sutton comparison here. I'm nervous for Collins and Dell. And Walter loves both of them still today because they've been absolutely balling. Nico's going to project better here. The matchup is certainly better for Sutton than it is for Nico. Nico's been far better for fantasy. Nico's seen such consistent volume too in his last 2 games. I think you go Nico Collins over Courtland Sutton. I don't feel great about it, but I do think it makes sense. It's super close, in my opinion. Dave Montgomery, Ridley, Mixon, or Javonte Williams. Yes, Javonte here. I'd go Javonte over all these guys. I do like Javonte against the Texans a decent amount. Hey, Sam, another question. Garrett Wilson or Achane? Yeah, I think this one in PPR is Garrett Wilson. In non-PPR, I think I'd probably go Achane. Olave or Dell? I'm going Olave over Dell. I think Olave needs to be started, guys. A good spot for him against the Lions. He's the only receiver left standing for the Saints, too. So the volume is going to be there. He's seeing 10 targets at least today. Sam, I got one more question. Is it worth starting Achane over Singletary? Let's do this comparison. I was pretty surprised how little Dameon Pierce played in his first game back. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see that change at least a bit today. Yeah, so it's it is Achane over Singletary. I think this one does make sense. Better matchup on paper here for Singletary, but I'm willing to risk it with Achane over Singletary. Muth or Laporte to PPR? Yeah, it's Laporte. Laporte has been really consistent. Help, I need this win for the playoffs. Ayuk over Evans? Yeah, I would definitely go Ayuk over Evans. Evans has not a great matchup against the Panthers. Ayuk has a pretty fantastic matchup here against the Eagles. Ayuk can win weeks this week. Same thing with Deebo Samuel. Really good matchup for him here Walter has Evans actually ahead of Ayuk. I disagree with this one because look at these matchups. Mike Evans gets the Panthers. They've allowed the 5th fewest points per game to receivers. Meanwhile, Brandon Ayuk gets the Eagles. They've allowed the 2nd most points per game to receivers. I would start Kyler Murray over Jordan Love, but it's close. Eckler or Monty, I'd go Eckler. I'd play Sutton over Puka. All right, we got Swift, Warren, or Garrett Wilson, half PPR. 1 running back, 1 flex. Yeah, so you're definitely starting Jalen Warren here, and then Swift versus Garrett Wilson. Let's do this one in half PPR too. I feel like Swift gets a slight edge here in half PPR. Not a great matchup here this week for Swift. The 49ers allowing the 3rd fewest points per game to running backs. Meanwhile, Garrett Wilson, he's playing with Tim Boyle, which is not good for anybody. Wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, honestly, to be catch a pass from Tim Boyle. And yeah, Swift over Garrett Wilson for that exact reason. Where's Josh Downs? He's not on the list. He should be on the list in tier 6. I think he belongs in tier 6, Josh Downs. I would probably play him over a lot of those guys. Josh Downs versus Cooper Kupp, for example, like really, really tough call this week between Downs and Cooper Kupp. I think I've gotten that question multiple times actually already today. And I think the answer actually is Josh Downs over Cooper Kupp. So I would put Josh Downs right at the top of tier 6. If you're watching live on TikTok, I would go Downs over Kupp. It feels weird. It feels wrong. I can taste it coming out of my mouth and it doesn't taste great, but it is Downs over Cooper Kupp for me this week. All right, Collins, Marquise Brown, Singletary, Brian Robinson, or AJ Dillon, flex full PPR. Yeah, you only got one here. It's Nico. You got to go Nico Collins. As scared as I am for the Texas passing attack today, Nico's the best option here, especially in a full PPR league. Stroud, I think, versus Trevor Lawrence is extremely close. I did adjust my QB rankings recently, and I still have Stroud. I bumped Stroud down against the Broncos because we have not seen huge quarterback days, including Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes struggling against the Denver Broncos. I still would go Stroud over Lawrence, though, I think. Deontay or Kupp is close. I think I would go Kupp over Deontay. Really close one. I'm scared about the weather for the Steelers in that game, though. Rashee Rice or Warren at flex, I definitely would go Jalen Warren. I like Warren a lot today. I like Warren a lot. I would play Pittman over Sutton. Do not bench Pittman. Do not bench Purdy. I'm playing Purdy over Justin Herbert. Otten or Juwan Johnson. Yeah, I think I would go Juwan over Cade Otten. You're benching Sutton over I'm playing Devontae Smith, Pittman, and Tyreek over Sutton pretty easily. I like Sutton a lot too. Can I see tight end tiers? Yeah, I got you. Seeing TikTok live subscriber asked that, and I got you. We got about 20 minutes left in this live stream, guys. We're going to spend the last 20 minutes of the live stream over on TikTok like we've been doing the last month or so. Everyone in the YouTube live, guys, I appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We will be live for the next 20 to 30 minutes over on the TikTok live. Make sure I get to all the TikTok live subscriber comments. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Guys, thanks for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. If I didn't get to your start sit question on the YouTube live, either go to the Walter Picks app, get the comparison in for free, or come over to the TikTok live at Walter Picks on TikTok. I'll make sure to get to it there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic Sunday and good luck, everybody. Have a great day.